The air itself holds its breath, a weight pressing down from the storm. All eyes are on the white robes, a stillness before the breach. To witness what happens when a legend steps from myth, join the watch. The pressure from the heavens was simply too great. All eyes turned to Ning Changge. Standing amidst the storm, his white robes fluttered as he glanced at the two masters. Impressive, but not enough, he thought. From the moment he ascended to the foundation establishment stage, few in the 9 provinces could truly challenge him. The heavenly monk and earthly nun were not among them. Yushu heavenly thunder descend. Xianxia heavenly thunder descend. Ning Changge's voice was calm, yet it carried the weight of inevitability. Boom! The thunderclouds roared louder than ever, their deafening sound shaking the heavens. Even Dugu Kyubai, far below the mountain, stopped in his tracks, his eyes filled with solemnity. "What domineering thunder!" he murmured, his battle intent surging, yet he restrained himself, gazing upward. Boom! 2 deafening explosions followed as 2 massive thunder dragons, one deep purple and the other light purple, descended from the sky. Their target, the heavenly monk. The heavenly thunder suppressed the heavenly monk. The combined power of the Yushu heavenly thunder and Xianxia heavenly thunder, enhanced by Ning Changge's foundation establishment mana, was more than 10 times stronger than before. The crowd was stunned, their faces illuminated by the radiant purple light of the descending thunder dragons. Even the land immortals, including Xianxia, were visibly shaken. The heavenly monk, his face pale, could only muster all his true energy. The platinum arhats surrounding him soared upward, their radiant light clashing with the thunder dragons. But it was futile. Crack, crack. The arhats shattered like fragile glass, unable to withstand even a fraction of the thunder's power. The thunder dragons roared as they enveloped the heavenly monk, their purple light obscuring him from view. The earthly nun, realizing the danger, attempted to assist, but before she could act, a new threat emerged. "Dadong earthly lightning descend! Xiandu earthly lightning descend!" Boom, boom. 2 more thunderous explosions echoed as green lightning dragons descended, their radiance even more otherworldly than the purple thunder. The earthly lightning crushed the earthly nun. The earthly nun's sword domain, powerful as it was, crumbled instantly under the onslaught of the green lightning dragons. Her sword intent was torn apart, leaving her defenseless. The crowd watched in stunned silence as both masters were engulfed by the heavenly and earthly forces. When the light finally faded, the 2 host bodies, Fan Qinghui and Liao Kong, collapsed to the ground, their auras faint. The martial wills of the heavenly monk and earthly nun had been utterly annihilated. The land immortals exchanged glances, their faces pale. To think their martial wills were completely destroyed. "They'll be severely weakened for years to come," Xianxia murmured. The old celestial master gazed at Ning Changge, his eyes filled with awe. He had thought it would take Ning Changge years to catch up to him. Now he realized that day had already arrived. Ning Changge had single-handedly crushed 2 of Buddhism's greatest masters. Turning to the remaining members of Siheng Jingjai and Jingnian Zen sect, Ning Changge's gaze was icy. "Deliver this message. In 1 month, Wudang's disciples will visit your sects to discuss the Tao. Let us settle this Tao-Buddhist dispute once and for all." His words were calm, yet they carried an undeniable finality. The Buddhist disciples, their faces pale, nodded hurriedly. "We will deliver your message." As they departed, a chilling realization settled over them. This was the beginning of a great calamity for Buddhism. The disciples of Siheng Jingjai and Jingnian Zen sect wore expressions of utter defeat, their faces pale with despair. None were more devastated than Fan Qinghui and Liao Kong. They had done nothing but offer their bodies as vessels for their ancestors' descent. Yet the backlash from the annihilation of the heavenly monk and earthly nun's martial wills had left them crippled, their cultivation completely destroyed. The bitterness and frustration they felt were unimaginable. Worse still, this wasn't even a direct result of Ning Changge's actions. It was the consequence of their ancestors' failure. There was no one to blame. In truth, if not for the fact that today was Zhang Sanfeng's centenary celebration, and the Buddhists had used the pretext of a martial exchange to issue their challenge, none of them would have left Tianzhu Peak alive. But that didn't matter. It was only a matter of time, 1 month to be exact. Ning Changge's gaze remained cold as he watched them retreat. Supported by her disciples, Fan Qinghui bowed respectfully before leaving. Even in defeat, they had to maintain basic courtesy toward a peerless figure like Ning Changge. Meanwhile, the rest of the crowd was once again shaken by Ning Changge's declaration. 1 month from now, we shall discuss the Tao and Buddhism again. This was clearly not an issue he intended to let slide. Everyone understood what this meant. The heavenly monk and earthly nun had not descended in their true forms. In 1 month, Wudang's disciples would undoubtedly visit Xianxia to issue a formal challenge. Another fierce confrontation was inevitable. In fact, it might escalate even further. More experts from both Taoism and Buddhism were likely to get involved, including land immortals. The mere thought of it sent shivers down the spines of the Jianghu guests. They could already sense the storm brewing on the horizon. 1 month from now, the spectacle might rival, or even surpass, today's events. If things escalated further, this could mark the beginning of a full-scale conflict between Taoism and Buddhism in this era. The crowd was deeply unsettled. A war between Taoism and Buddhism would undoubtedly engulf the entire Jianghu of the 9 provinces. Both traditions had numerous sacred sites and widespread influence. If such a conflict broke out, the repercussions would be unprecedented. Even the Heaven Man experts felt a chill run down their spines at the thought of Ning Changge's words. The old celestial master, Xiaoyazi and Zhang Sanfeng exchanged glances, their expressions resolute. Though anger and battle intent flickered in their eyes, they fully supported Ning Changge's decision. The rivalry between Taoism and Buddhism was inevitable. Buddhism's influence spanned the 9 provinces, with sacred sites such as Shaolin Temple, Siheng Jingjai, Jingnian Zen sect, Lulan Buddhism, Tianzhu Buddhism, and the Secret Sect. These traditions frequently produced figures of great power, and their relics ensured a steady stream of formidable practitioners, even if their combat prowess varied. In contrast, Taoism's sacred sites, such as Dragon Tiger Mountain, the Xiaoyao sect, Northern Li's Qingcheng Mountain, and now Wudang, were fewer in number and less influential. Historically, Taoism's strength lay in its quality over quantity. Taoist land immortals were often stronger than their Buddhist counterparts. However, Taoism's emphasis on individual enlightenment meant its influence was less widespread than Buddhism's. Simply put, Taoism prioritized quality, while Buddhism emphasized quantity. When Taoism lacked a heavyweight figure like the founder of Dragon Tiger Mountain, it would be overshadowed by Buddhism. Conversely, when Taoism produced such figures, it would dominate Buddhism. In this era, Taoism lacked such a figure. The old celestial master, while formidable, was not enough to tip the scales. This emboldened Buddhism to act as it did today. The heavenly monk and earthly nun, despite knowing the old celestial master and Xiaoyazi were present, dared to challenge Wudang. They believed Buddhism's overall strength would shield them, but they had miscalculated. Ning Changge's intervention had completely overturned their plans. With a single move, Ning Changge had crushed the martial wills of 2 land immortals, leaving them humiliated. His strength and talent gave the old celestial master and Xiaoyazi hope that Taoism could once again suppress Buddhism. Ning Changge had the potential to become the leader of Taoism. The crowd, observing the land immortals' reactions, felt their hearts tremble. They realized the magnitude of what had just transpired. At the same time, they couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. The 9 provinces had been relatively quiet for some time, but now, it seemed a new era of upheaval was beginning. Perhaps this was the start of a new golden age for the Jianghu. Every few decades, the martial world of the 9 provinces would experience a period of flourishing, with countless prodigies and powerhouses emerging. This would eventually be followed by a period of decline, only for the cycle to repeat. This era's golden age might very well begin with the Tao-Buddhist conflict. As these thoughts raced through their minds, the crowd's gazes turned to Ning Changge. It all began with him. Since the moment he had obliterated the martial wills of the heavenly monk and earthly nun, the stage had been set. To many, Ning Changge seemed destined to be the central figure of this era. How else could one explain his terrifying strength at the age of 11? The old celestial master's eyes were filled with admiration. He was certain that Ning Changge's strength was already on par with his own. Even if he had been the one to act earlier, the outcome would have been no different. It was hard to imagine how terrifying Ning Changge would become once he ascended to the land immortal realm. The crowd was filled with awe. Could the little immortal truly be the chosen one of this era? It seems likely. Every time he acts, he shatters our expectations. After slaying 2 land immortals on Mount Zhangnan, we thought we had seen his limits. But now he's crushed the heavenly monk and earthly nun, and it's even more shocking. I'm starting to think this might not even be his limit. Impossible. If this isn't his limit, then how strong is he? Tianzhu Peak buzzed with whispers of astonishment and disbelief. But soon someone noticed something unusual. After subduing the heavenly monk and earthly nun, Ning Changge did not return to his seat. Instead, he stood with his hands behind his back, gazing calmly toward the base of Tianzhu Peak, as if waiting for someone. "Who is the little immortal waiting for?" someone murmured. The crowd, which had just begun to relax, tensed up again. Even Song Yuan-Kiao, who had been preparing to formally conclude the celebration, hesitated. The old celestial master and the other land immortals also looked puzzled. Surely no one else would dare to come, especially someone stronger than the heavenly monk and earthly nun. Their questions were soon answered. The atmosphere shifted as a figure appeared at the base of Tianzhu Peak. It was an old beggar, his clothes tattered and his pace unhurried. The crowd's attention snapped to the newcomer. Though he appeared unremarkable, the sheer presence he exuded was suffocating. Some recognized him and gasped in disbelief. "I've seen him before," one man exclaimed, his voice trembling. He recounted how he had once dismissed the old beggar as a mere vagrant. But now it was clear this was no ordinary man. Even Ximen Chuixu and Yi Gucheng exchanged uneasy glances. They seemed to recognize the figure but couldn't quite believe it. Ning Changge's gaze carried a hint of anticipation. The old celestial master and the other land immortals grew increasingly serious. The beggar's seemingly ordinary demeanor only made him more terrifying. Finally, Li Changsheng broke the silence, his voice dry and strained. "The sword demon Dugu Kyubai?" 6 simple words, yet they carried the weight of legend. The crowd erupted in shock. "The sword demon, the undefeated master of the sword. He's still alive. This is the man who dominated the Jianghu for 5 lifetimes, leaving behind nothing but awe-inspiring legends." Dugu Kyubai had once challenged every swordsman in the land, never tasting defeat. At most, he had fought to a draw. 2 centuries ago, he had bested the sword saint of Peerless City. A century ago, with a single stroke of his sword, he had severed the arm of the evil Emperor Xiang Yushan, forcing him into seclusion. Even Li Changsheng, the Kunlun sword immortal, admitted, "1 cycle ago, the sword demon defeated me with 2 strikes." The crowd was stunned. Even the land immortals looked at the old beggar with newfound respect. Zhang Sanfeng felt a rare sense of unease. Why had this legendary figure come to Wudeng? Ning Changge, however, was filled with excitement. The moment his spiritual senses had detected Dugu Kyubai at the base of the mountain, he had felt a rare surge of battle intent. Dugu Kyubai ascended Tianzhu Peak, his demeanor calm and unassuming. "Who would have thought so many still remember this dying old man?" he said with a laugh, his presence commanding despite his humble appearance. Stopping before the monument of 10,000 swords, he studied it intently. "Such sword intent! I've never seen its like in the 9 provinces. It seems I was right to come." His gaze shifted to Ning Changge, filled with anticipation. The crowd held its breath. Ning Changge smiled faintly. "I take it you're not here for the same reason as those 2, he said, referring to the heavenly monk and earthly nun. Dugu Kyubai grinned. "The Tao Buddhist rivalry doesn't interest me. I care only for the sword. I've seen all there is to see of swordsmanship in the 9 provinces, except yours." Turning to Zhang Sanfeng, he added, "Zhang, I know this is your celebration and I shouldn't intrude, but I couldn't resist." His tone was casual, devoid of malice. Zhang Sanfeng bowed respectfully. "It is an honor to have you here, sword demon." Dugu Kyubai's gaze returned to Ning Changge. "I came to see your swordsmanship." The crowd was in an uproar. This was the sword demon, the undefeated legend of the Jianghu, challenging the little immortal. The excitement was palpable, especially among the swordsmen present. Ning Changge, his robes billowing, met Dugu Kyubai's gaze with a calm smile. "Very well," he said. With a simple "good," Ning Changge exuded absolute confidence, igniting the crowd's excitement. The little immortal had accepted the challenge. In an instant, everyone's anticipation soared. Their breaths hitched as their gazes locked onto the 2 figures at the center of the stage, brimming with expectation. This level of combat was rarely witnessed. Even for Heavenman experts or land immortals, such a duel was a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. It was no exaggeration to say that this battle would become a legend, retold for centuries. And those present today would forever be remembered as witnesses to history. The Jianghu guests silently thanked their fortune for attending Zhang Sanfeng's centenary celebration. Otherwise, how could they have been blessed with the chance to witness such a battle? Dugu Kyubai, the sword demon, was momentarily stunned before bursting into hearty laughter. "Good, very good." His eyes gleamed with admiration. Ordinary people, upon hearing his name, would tremble in fear, their limbs turning to jelly. Yet the young Taoist before him had shown no such reaction. From start to finish, Ning Changge's demeanor remained composed, tinged only with a hint of battle intent and curiosity. Dugu Kyubai recognized that emotion well. It was the anticipation of exploring one's path further. In that moment, he understood they were the same kind of person. As his laughter subsided, Dugu Kyubai's ragged gray robes fluttered in the wind. His unkempt beard danced wildly, but no one dared to underestimate the disheveled old man. In the entire 9 provinces, only a handful of people would dare to look down on him. Suddenly, his aura shifted. Buzz. Invisible waves of sharpness radiated outward, transforming the ordinary old man into a figure of overwhelming presence. Boom! A terrifying sword intent erupted without warning, piercing the heavens. On Tianzhu Peak, the force of the sword intent was so immense that it tore through the clouds, creating a massive vacuum column that left everyone in awe. The sheer pressure made breathing difficult. Even the top Heavenman swordsmen couldn't hold onto their swords. One by one, swords began to hum, tremble, and bow in reverence. The resonance of 10,000 swords was no exaggeration. Before the sword demon, all other swordsmen seemed to pale in comparison. Li Changsheng, the Kunlun sword immortal, was visibly shaken. He alone understood Dugu Kyubai had grown even stronger, far stronger than he had been a cycle ago. Standing with his hands behind his back, Dugu Kyubai's gaze grew distant. He spoke calmly. "Years ago, I created a martial art called the 9 Swords of Dugu." In the crowd, Feng Qingyang began to tremble, tears welling in his eyes. He had inherited a fragment of the sword demon's legacy, which had propelled him to his current heights. Dugu Kyubai continued, "But the 9 Swords of Dugu were flawed, overly fixated on technique. Over the past cycle of wandering, I have refined them into something greater, something rooted in intent. Ning, let me show you." His eyes glimmered with pride. As the sword demon, even when seeking to witness Ning Changge's swordsmanship, he carried his own pride. To earn his full recognition, Ning Changge would have to prove himself. Feng Qingyang's eyes widened, his body trembling uncontrollably. He longed to see how the 9 Swords of Dugu, elevated to the realm of intent and Dao, would manifest. Perhaps this would guide his own future growth. All eyes were fixed on the sword demon. Behind him, his sword intent soared to the heavens, splitting into 9 distinct strands. The sheer power was overwhelming. Ximen Chuixu, a master of the sword himself, was utterly captivated. As someone deeply devoted to the sword, he couldn't help but feel a sense of reverence in the presence of such sword intent. Meanwhile, Ning Changge's eyes sparkled with 5-colored light. A faint smile played on his lips as he responded calmly. With that, Ning Changge opened his mouth, and 5 beams of light shot into the sky. In an instant, they transformed into 5 spirit swords, hovering in midair. Each sword radiated an aura of sharpness that pierced the heavens, accompanied by dazzling 5-colored light. The sight was breathtaking. The swords that had been trembling under Dugu Kyubai's influence now quivered even more violently. 5 beams of light, gold, green, blue, red, and yellow, shot skyward, illuminating the crowd's stunned expressions. Though night had begun to fall, the brilliance of the 5-element spirit swords made Tianzhu Peak as bright as day. The crowd held their breath. For most, this was their first time witnessing the 5-element spirit swords. The sight left their minds blank, overwhelmed by the sheer grandeur. Li Hanyi's beautiful eyes widened in shock. She recalled Ning Changge's earlier guidance and now realized just how unfathomable his mastery of the sword was. She could only look up to him in awe. Dugu Kyubai's battle intent burned even brighter. The moment the 5-element spirit swords appeared, he knew he had made the right decision in coming. This was a swordsmanship unlike anything the 9 provinces had ever seen. "Excellent," he exclaimed, laughing heartily. "The 9 Swords of Dugu, elevated to intent, are nameless. They begin with Sword 1 and culminate in Sword 9. He raised a hand. Behind him, the 9 strands of sword intent surged, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth to form 9 terrifying beams of sword energy. Each beam was capable of tearing through an ordinary land immortal with ease. At the center, Sword 1, the strongest, led the charge, with the other 8 beams following in unison. The old celestial master's expression grew grave. Xiaoyazi fell silent, fully aware that this sword intent could obliterate him without effort. And this was clearly not the sword demon's full strength. Ning Changge laughed as well. The five-element sword Qi manifests as five divine beasts: white tiger of metal, azure dragon of wood, black tortoise of water, vermilion bird of fire, and Qilin of earth. Standing with his hands behind his back, Ning Changge didn't need to move. The five-element spirit swords, sensing his intent, began to tremble. Five beams of sword energy shot skyward, transforming into divine beasts. The golden sword gave rise to the roaring white tiger. The green sword summoned the coiling azure dragon. The blue sword brought forth the black tortoise, stepping across the sea. The red sword birthed the vermilion bird, bathed in divine flames. The yellow sword manifested the Qilin, gazing down upon all creation. The five divine beasts loomed over the battlefield, their sword intent overwhelming. As the two combatants clashed, the sheer force of their confrontation felt apocalyptic. Tianzhu Peak itself seemed to tremble under the weight of their power. The crowd was dumbfounded, their hearts filled with dread. Even Heavenman experts felt like ants in the face of such power. Ordinary land immortals would have to flee for their lives. If the two combatants hadn't held back, Tianzhu Peak would have been obliterated. Such sword energy? It's terrifying, murmured the Dragon Island master, cold sweat dripping down his back. High above, Dugu Kyubai's 9 strands of sword intent collided with the five-element sword Qi. Boom! In the stunned silence, the Qilin stood at the center, facing off against Sword 1, while the other 4 divine beasts battled the remaining 8 strands of sword intent. The sound of their clash was deafening, like mountains collapsing and seas roaring. The air was filled with the sound of swords tearing through space, their brilliance painting the night sky. Even the land immortals stood up, straining to see the battle's outcome. As the dust settled, the 9 strands of sword intent and the 5 divine beasts had vanished. "Is it a draw?" someone whispered, barely daring to breathe. "No, it's not." All eyes turned to Dugu Kyubai. Someone noticed it first. He had taken a single step back. A single step, but it was enough to determine the victor. "The little immortal won," gasps echoed across Tianzhu Peak. Even the old celestial master couldn't help but gasp, nearly pulling out his beard in shock. He stared at the scene, unable to believe his eyes. In their initial exchange, Ning Changge had emerged slightly victorious. "My heavens, what kind of monster is this?" murmured one of the land immortals, his voice trembling. Dugu Kyubai's laughter rang out, his eyes alight with unprecedented battle intent. Ning Changge's display had exceeded all his expectations. "Good. Truly impressive. You are worthy of the title Little Immortal." His tone had shifted, from calling Ning Changge boy to addressing him as an equal. Ning Changge's interest was equally piqued. It was rare for someone to withstand his five-element sword Qi. His eyes gleamed with five-colored light as new insights formed in his mind. The sword demon's techniques had inspired him, though he felt there was still more to uncover. Dugu Kyubai's wild hair flew as his eyes burned with determination. In that moment, he fully regained the aura of the proud, solitary sword demon. Behind him, the shattered 9 strands of sword intent reformed, stronger than before. 9 swords of Dugu can merge into one. "This is the sword intent of defeat," he declared, laughing maniacally. The 9 strands began to fuse, their power growing exponentially. The crowd watched in awe as the sword demon raised his hands, as if lifting a mountain. All eyes turned to Ning Changge, eager to see how he would respond. Calm as ever, Ning Changge stood with one hand behind his back, the other forming a sword seal. The 5-element spirit swords trembled, their divine beasts roaring with excitement. 5-element sword formation, activate! The 5 swords shot into the sky, their brilliance illuminating the night. In an instant, each sword split into 4, creating 20 sword shadows that filled the heavens. The crowd was stunned. With the sword shadows in place, the 5-element sword formation transformed into a colossal, nested formation. The sword demon's eyes widened in shock. The nested formation unleashed a massive beam of 5-colored sword energy, its sheer power dwarfing the sword demon's own. As the two forces clashed, the crowd watched in stunned silence, their hearts pounding. Did the sword demon lose? Chapter 115. The little immortal reaches the pinnacle. The sword demon bows. The thought had barely crossed their minds before they forcibly suppressed it. This was Dugu Kyubai, the sword demon, a man who stood at the pinnacle of the 9 provinces, a peerless genius even among land immortals. Ordinary land immortals were nothing more than playthings before him. And now you're telling me he lost to the little immortal. While the little immortal was undoubtedly extraordinary, he was still only 11 years old. The idea that he could even contend with the sword demon was already beyond belief. To think he could defeat him, impossible. How could such a monstrous person exist in this world? It defied all logic. The top experts of the Jianghu stood frozen, their minds blank. Their eyes were glued to the center of the battlefield. Finally, as the residual sword energy dissipated, the scene came into view. What they saw left them utterly stunned. The sword demon had retreated 9 steps. Not only that, but blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. He was injured. The crowd collectively gasped, their disbelief palpable. Even Xiao Yazi and Li Changsheng, both land immortals, were left speechless, their composure shattered. This, they couldn't believe their eyes. Though the sword demon wasn't utterly defeated, it was clear he had been bested by the little immortal. 9 steps back, blood at his lips. This was no minor injury. It was a stark contrast to his earlier retreat of a single step, which had been a mere half measure of defeat. The crowd's hearts raced, their eyes wide with shock. The scene before them was too surreal. The mighty sword demon brought low by an 11-year-old boy. What kind of terrifying reality was this? Moreover, the 5-element sword formation still hovered in the sky, its light undiminished. It was clear that it could unleash another devastating 5-colored sword energy at any moment. This meant the little immortal still had energy to spare. For the first time, the crowd glimpsed the limits of Ning Changge's power. But the revelation was almost too much to bear. Dugu Kyubai stood frozen, his hand trembling as it touched the blood at the corner of his mouth. His expression was one of disbelief. How many years had it been? How many years since he last tasted defeat? Not since his early days of learning the sword had he been injured in combat. Once his swordsmanship reached its peak, he had never been harmed again, not even in draws. But now he was injured. The sword demon slowly raised his head, his gaze locking onto the white-robed youth before him, his eyes filled with shock and then gradually admiration. Now I see. You're one of them? No, you're even more extraordinary. They only became truly powerful after ascending to the land immortal realm. His voice carried a note of awe, leaving the crowd puzzled. The old celestial master, however, froze. His eyes widened in realization, a look of shock overtaking his face. He thought he understood what the sword demon meant by one of them. Ning Changge understood as well. A thought crossed his mind. It seems the sword demon has crossed paths with land immortals possessing innate spiritual constitutions, he mused. The sword demon was likely referring to individuals like the Green Lotus sword immortal. Those with spiritual constitutions could resonate with the forces of heaven and earth far beyond ordinary land immortals. For a regular land immortal to match them was nearly impossible, unless they possessed extraordinary talent, like the sword demon himself. Ning Changge replied calmly, "I'm not like them." He wasn't lying. If anything, Ning Changge was the endpoint of their aspirations, the culmination of their goals. The heavenly energy they could only dream of was something he held in the palm of his hand, something that danced at his fingertips. The sword demon was momentarily stunned, his face filled with doubt. How can that be? I could clearly sense. He trailed off, a thought forming in his mind that even he found hard to believe. His pupils contracted, and for the first time his eyes filled with genuine fear. He stared at Ning Changge, who met his gaze with calm indifference. You've already surpassed them. Ning Changge nodded faintly. The sword demon's shock deepened. At last, he understood the nature of the opponent he had challenged. Throwing his head back, he laughed, his body trembling with mirth. Good. In a million years, someone has finally broken the shackles. Excellent. And to think I, Dugu Kyubai, am the first to know of it. What an honor. Too bad. I won't live to see that day. His laughter carried a sense of relief and acceptance. The crowd of swordsmen was alarmed. From his words, they sensed an undercurrent of resignation. Ning Changge spoke softly. If you wish, you can live to see it. He appreciated talent. The sword demon's brilliance was undeniable. If he could step onto the path of the Immortal Dao, he would undoubtedly become a peerless sword immortal, even with a mortal body. But Dugu Kyubai shook his head slowly. To witness such a path today is already the greatest honor of my life. My time has come. There's no need to cling to life. At his core, the sword demon was a man of pride. He longed to see new horizons, but not at the cost of his dignity. His eyes burned with fervor. I have one last sword incomplete. It's called nothingness. Will you show me your strongest strike? The crowd watched in awe as the sword demon's towering sword intent began to dissipate. Spreading his arms wide, he seemed to embrace the heavens. A formless aura radiated from him, leaving the onlookers breathless. Only now did they realize Dugu Kyubai had never drawn a sword. His hands were empty, yet his heart was full of swords. Everything was a sword. The crowd began to grasp the magnitude of his final technique. Even Ning Changge's eyes glimmered with anticipation. "Very well," he said. Above, the 5-element spirit swords began to tremble violently. The sword demon closed his eyes, a serene smile on his face. Immersed in the moment, he felt nothing but the resonance of the sword. There was no soaring sword intent, no overwhelming aura. Yet everyone felt it, a sharpness being born as if the sword demon himself had become a sword. Even his vitality began to fade. The old celestial master's expression turned solemn. He understood now why the sword demon had come to Tianzhu Peak. This was his final act, his swan song. But he hadn't expected Ning Changge to be so powerful, forcing the sword demon to unleash his incomplete ultimate technique. Dugu Kyubai's face was serene, his body seemingly transforming into a sword. This was the pinnacle of swordsmanship, man and sword as one. The crowd watched in reverence. In the void, there was no visible sword energy. Yet the air was filled with the sound of swords humming. The sword demon was pouring the last of his life force into this strike. Ning Changge stepped forward, his voice calm as he addressed his opponent. "This sword is called the 5-element sword Lotus, a technique I derived from the green lotus sword Immortal. Please judge it." He would hold nothing back. The Dragon Island master gasped, recalling the miraculous events on Xia Key Island. He hadn't expected Ning Changge to have mastered such a powerful technique from the green lotus sword Immortal's teachings. The crowd was stunned. The green lotus sword Immortal, a figure even more legendary than the sword demon, his swordsmanship unparalleled in the 9 provinces. Ning Changge's body radiated 5-colored light, his mana surging as he connected with the 5-element spirit swords. He raised a hand. Above, the 5-element spirit swords began to split into countless shadows. Each shadow shimmered with light, forming layers upon layers of lotus petals. The 5-element sword Lotus took shape in the sky, its brilliance unmatched. Even Li Changsheng shivered, his face pale. From the sword Lotus, he felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Each petal seemed capable of annihilating him. He stood frozen, his title of Kunlun Sword Immortal feeling unworthy in the presence of such mastery. The crowd stared in awe at the sword Lotus, its boundless sharpness and sword intent leaving them speechless. Even the sword demon, his eyes closed, could sense its terrifying power. He trembled with excitement. Such swordsmanship! My choice of Wudang as my final stage was not in vain. As the two unleashed their ultimate techniques, the land immortals felt a chill run down their spines. Above, the sword Lotus swayed. Beside the sword demon, the formless swords trembled. Finally, he roared, his disheveled hair standing on end. His entire being was poured into this one strike. Nothingness, the formless sword surged toward the sword Lotus. In that moment, his hair turned white, his skin withered, and his ancestrate back bent. This was his all. Ning Changge pointed skyward. The sword Lotus glowed brightly, its light illuminating the entire peak. With each sway, countless beams of 5-colored sword energy erupted, dazzling yet deadly. The formless swords collided with the sword Lotus. Boom. The explosion echoed for hundreds of miles. Land immortals shielded the crowd from the shockwaves. The sword Lotus swayed once, and half the formless swords shattered. It swayed again, and the remaining swords were nearly gone. On the third sway, the sword demon could no longer stand. The sword Lotus remained, its petals still shimmering. The sword demon, however, was spent. The crowd erupted in disbelief. The little immortal won. Even the sword demon's final strike couldn't defeat him, and the sword Lotus still has energy to spare. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying to witness such a battle. I can die without regrets. The sword demon stood trembling, his body on the verge of collapse. He looked at the sword Lotus, then at Ning Changge and smiled bitterly. I am defeated. His voice was calm, filled with admiration. Dugu Kyubai admits defeat. The crowd fell silent, their respect for both combatants reaching new heights. The sword demon coughed, blood staining his lips. Bowing slightly, he said, Little Immortal, I have one final request. Number chapter 116. The Immortal Dao, a new system of cultivation. The 5 elements void sword, a perfect celebration. The sight of the once-proud sword demon, who had refused to bow even in his final moments, now lowering his head to Ning Changge, struck a chord in everyone's hearts. A complex mix of emotions filled the air, a blend of admiration and sorrow for a hero nearing his end. At the same time, curiosity burned in their minds. What could the sword demon possibly request? Ning Changge, already sensing the nature of the request, nodded calmly. Speak. He, too, held a measure of respect for the sword demon. This was the first opponent since Ning Changge's ascension to the Immortal Dao who had truly tested him. The duel had pushed his 5-element sword technique to near perfection. Of course, he had not yet used his Samadhi True Fire, the 7 Stars Spirit Gathering Formation, or the Celestial Star Pagoda Sword Formation. He hadn't even tapped into the full extent of his abilities. From beginning to end, he had remained composed. This was the confidence born of his profound foundation. The sword demon's face softened with relief. He turned his gaze to the sky and let out a sharp whistle that echoed across Tianzhu Peak. Moments later, a majestic black condor descended from the heavens, landing gracefully beside the sword demon. The condor's feathers were as black as polished iron, gleaming with a metallic sheen. Its piercing eyes sent shivers down the spines of onlookers. This was no ordinary creature. It was a true beast of legend. Rumors spoke of a divine condor that accompanied the sword demon, treated as his closest companion. "I can't believe it's true," someone whispered in awe. The crowd began to piece together the sword demon's intentions. The condor, its eyes filled with sorrow, nudged the sword demon with its head, as if trying to lift him and carry him away from Tianzhu Peak. The sword demon chuckled softly. Gently stroking the condor's feathers, he spoke with rare tenderness. "Old friend, don't be sad. This is my fate. To witness such unparalleled swordsmanship today is my greatest honor." As he comforted the condor, he turned to Ning Changge and said, "Little immortal, this is my companion. He is no ordinary creature, possessing intelligence and great strength. I know you already have the spirit monkey under your care, but I ask that you allow him to stay at Wudang. Let him guard the mountain gates and find a place of peace. He is no freeloader. His strength is extraordinary, capable of fending off even Heavenman experts." It was clear that the sword demon feared for the condor's safety after his passing. He worried it might fall into the hands of vengeful land immortals who had once been defeated by him. And he trusted Wudang's character. The condor, sensing the sword demon's resolve, let out a mournful cry, its tears falling like pearls. The sword demon continued, "I won't ask this of you for free." His gaze shifted to the monument of 10,000 swords, standing tall at the mountain gates. His eyes filled with admiration. "I have nothing else to offer, but my swordsmanship is not without merit. Upon my death, I will imbue my sword intent into the monument as a token of gratitude for taking in my old friend." His eyes held a trace of pleading. The sword demon, proud as he was, would only bow his head for the sake of his companion. The crowd was deeply moved. Their respect for the sword demon grew even stronger. He was a man who had reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship, yet fate had brought him face to face with the unparalleled genius of the little immortal. Ning Changge nodded slowly. "You have my word. The condor will stay at Wudang, and in time he may even walk the path of the Immortal Dao." His gaze lingered on the condor, sensing the same innate spirituality as his spirit monkey. This was no ordinary beast. Like the spirit monkey, it was a rare anomaly born of unique circumstances, its nature perfectly attuned to spiritual energy. The sword demon's eyes lit up with joy, and he laughed heartily. Relieved, he patted the condor's wings and said, "Did you hear that, old friend? From now on, you'll follow the little immortal and cultivate well. One day, at the monument of 10,000 swords, you can tell me of your progress. I'll be watching over you." The condor let out a mournful cry, its tears flowing freely. The scene was deeply moving. The sword demon laughed softly, his voice gradually fading. He gave the condor one last pat on the wing, and the great bird finally stopped resisting. Bowing its head, it turned to Ning Changge and respectfully bowed. It understood. The sword demon's time had come, and his final wish was for it to remain at Wudang. Ning Changge accepted the bow with quiet composure. With the spirit monkey already under his care, taking in the condor was no burden. The spirit monkey, meanwhile, was visibly excited. At last, a kindred spirit had arrived. It grinned warmly at the condor, who returned the gesture with a respectful bow. The sword demon watched this interaction, his smile growing even more serene. Turning back to Ning Changge, he hesitated briefly before asking, "Little immortal, what is the Immortal Dao?" His eyes were filled with curiosity. Though he had glimpsed the extraordinary nature of Ning Changge's power, he couldn't comprehend its full scope. How could someone be so far beyond the limits of reason, beyond the bounds of all known logic? The crowd collectively held their breath. This was the question that burned in everyone's minds. Even Yeyu, her heart racing, leaned forward. She had once asked Ning Changge the same question, and his answer had been the Immortal Dao. But what did that truly mean? Despite her efforts, she had found no answers. Even the land immortals, Li Changsheng, Zhao, and the old celestial master, stared intently at Ning Changge, their curiosity palpable. Ning Changge raised his gaze to meet the sword demons. The Immortal Dao is a system of cultivation I created, distinct from martial arts. To pursue eternal life is the Immortal Dao. To seek the truth of immortality is the Immortal Dao. To refine the forces of heaven and earth for one's own use is also the Immortal Dao. He spoke simply, offering only a glimpse of the truth. The time was not yet ripe. For now, a seed of understanding was enough. When his cultivation advanced further, he would reveal the full scope of the Immortal Dao to the world. Preparations for that day were already underway. But even these few words plunged Tianzhu Peak into an eerie silence. The night wind whispered through the air, the only sound in the stillness. The crowd's eyes widened, their expressions a mix of shock and disbelief. So the Immortal Dao isn't the path to becoming a land immortal, but an entirely new system of cultivation. Yeyu thought, her face pale with astonishment. Her thoughts mirrored those of everyone present. A collective gasp echoed across the peak. Even the land immortals abandoned all pretense of composure, their shock evident. A new system of cultivation, distinct from martial arts, had emerged in the 9 provinces. The implications were staggering. For countless generations, the martial arts of the 9 provinces had evolved into the system known today. One that began with the postnatal realm, progressed to the innate realm, and culminated in the land immortal realm. This was the natural order, the accepted truth. But now, Ning Changge had introduced something entirely new. And from what they had seen, the Immortal Dao seemed to surpass martial arts in every way. The crowd's minds raced with questions, but none dared to ask further. Ning Changge's silence made it clear he had no intention of elaborating. The sword demon stood frozen, his thoughts in turmoil. He fixated on one phrase: to refine the forces of heaven and earth for one's own use. In the 9 provinces, the strength of a land immortal depended on their ability to resonate with the forces of heaven and earth. This was an unchanging truth. But Ning Changge spoke of refining these forces, of making them his own. The sword demon's voice trembled with awe. Such a path! I have no regrets in losing to you. One day, the Immortal Dao will shine across the 9 provinces. Too bad I won't live to see it. Turning to the condor, he smiled. Old friend, you must live well. Witness the brilliance of the 9 provinces for me. The condor let out a mournful cry, its tears flowing once more. The sword demon bowed deeply to Ning Changge, a gesture of respect for the creator of the Immortal Dao and a final thanks for answering his question. Thank you, little immortal, for enlightening me. With that, he turned and walked toward the monument of 10,000 swords. His white hair glowed under the moonlight, his figure both majestic and tragic. The crowd watched in reverence, their voices rising in unison. We bid farewell to the sword demon. The sword demon laughed one last time, his body crumbling into dust. In his place, a radiant sword intent rose into the sky, merging with the monument of 10,000 swords. The monument erupted with light, its sword intent surging to new heights. It seemed almost alive, its aura growing exponentially stronger. The sword demon's legacy had become part of Wudang's foundation. Ning Changge's eyes gleamed with 5-colored light as inspiration struck him. The sword demon's final technique, nothingness, had given him new insights. A notification echoed in his mind. You have gained enlightenment from the sword demon's swordsmanship. By integrating his teachings with your understanding of the 5 elements in space, you have created a new technique, the 5 Elements Void Sword. The 5 Elements Void Sword was a formless, spaceless technique, capable of striking enemies from thousands of miles away. It was a powerful addition to his arsenal. Satisfied, he turned to the condor and said, From now on, you will cultivate alongside the spirit monkey, honor the sword demon's legacy, and strive for the Tao. The condor bowed deeply, its sorrow evident. Ning Changge smiled warmly. With the condor's addition, Wudang's strength would only grow. The disciples of Wudang looked at Ning Changge with awe. His feats never ceased to amaze them, inspiring boundless respect. Zhang Sanfeng, his eyes filled with pride, could only marvel at his disciple. What more could I ask for with such a student? Ning Changge turned to Zhang Sanfeng and bowed. Master, I disrupted your celebration. Please forgive me. Zhang Sanfeng laughed heartily. The sword demon chose you for his final battle. It was destiny. This duel has brought honor to my celebration, ensuring it will be remembered for generations. How could it be a disruption? The crowd agreed. The duel between the little immortal and the sword demon would be etched into history, a ancient century event. As the celebration wound down, Zhang Sanfeng addressed the guests. Thank you all for attending my centenary celebration. If we have failed to meet your expectations, I ask for your understanding. The hour is late. Please rest here on Tianzhu Peak and descend tomorrow. The Wudang disciples, led by Song Yuanqiao, began organizing accommodations for the guests. The celebration had come to an end, but its impact would ripple across the 9 provinces for years to come. The Jianghu would never be the same. At the towering 99 Zhang Ascension Pavilion, Ning Changge, clad in his black dragon robe, listened intently to Zhao Gao's report. For the first time, his face showed an expression of unprecedented seriousness, and deep within his eyes, a flicker of shock emerged. Fixing his gaze on Zhao Gao, his voice carried an undeniable authority that brooked no dissent. Are your words true? Zhao Gao's back was drenched in cold sweat. He immediately bowed even lower, his head nearly touching the ground. Your Majesty, every word is true. The assassins of the Luo Net returned from Wudang overnight with first-hand accounts. Everything was witnessed with their own eyes. The little immortal of Wudang personally answered the sword demon, revealing that the Immortal Dao is a cultivation system of his own creation. Even Zhao Gao, who had seen much in his lifetime, was filled with shock. His cultivation was not insignificant, and he understood all too well what the creation of an entirely new cultivation system implied. Zhao Gao knew what truly concerned the first emperor. The Tao-Buddhist rivalry and the duel between the sword demon and the little immortal were secondary. The key lay in the revelation that the Immortal Dao, as described by Ning Changge, had begun to unveil its mysteries to the world. The shock in Ning Changge's eyes deepened. Unknowingly, black dragon energy coiled around his hand. His voice was soft, yet carried immense weight. To refine the forces of heaven and earth for one's own use, to pursue eternal life, to seek the truth of immortality. Immortal Dao. Is it truly so miraculous? His breathing grew heavier. Eternal life. It was a goal he had pursued relentlessly. Why else would he have summoned Taoist alchemists to his court, excavated ancient texts and secrets, or sent Su Fu across the seas in search of the elixir of life? Why else would he have invested in Ning Changge's Taoist teachings upon first hearing of the Immortal Dao? Now, he realized how gravely mistaken he had been. He, like the rest of the world, had assumed that Ning Changge's so-called Immortal Dao was merely a path to becoming a land immortal. Only now did he understand. The Immortal Dao was an entirely new system of cultivation, one that refined the forces of heaven and earth for personal use. Such a path aligned perfectly with his vision of eternal life. As someone who stood at the pinnacle of the 9 provinces, Ning Changge was well aware of the existence of spiritual constitutions. He knew that certain individuals sought to harness the forces of heaven and earth, but to think that a mere youth had succeeded where others had only dreamed. It was clear. From now on, all eyes in the 9 provinces would be fixed on Wudang and its little immortal. Zhao Gao's heart raced with fear. It had been years since he had seen the first emperor so visibly affected. The last time was centuries ago, when Su Fu failed to return from his quest for immortality. Zhao Gao had already overestimated the importance of Wudang in the emperor's eyes, but even so, he had underestimated its true weight. Zhao Gao, Ning Changge commanded, his black dragon energy swirling ominously. From this day forward, Wudang and the little immortal are to be the highest priority of the Great Qin. I want to know their every move, especially regarding the Immortal Dao. His voice grew colder. When the time is right, I will personally visit Wudang. Zhao Gao's heart nearly stopped. The idea of the emperor himself visiting Wudang was unthinkable. Trembling, he forced himself to respond. And what of our plans for the Sui dynasty? Put them second. Yes, your majesty. As Zhao Gao retreated, drenched in sweat, Ning Changge's gaze seemed to pierce through the heavens, landing on Tianzhu Peak in the Ming dynasty. His eyes burned with fervor. Immortal Dao, if it truly grants eternal life, I will not let it slip away. Number Martial Emperor City Wang Xianji stood at the eastern edge of the city, gazing out at the East Sea. As he listened to the report behind him, his eyes gleamed with a sharp, almost blinding light. In that moment, his battle intent surged, radiating across Martial Emperor City. The Jianghu practitioners within the city felt it keenly, their hearts trembling as they looked skyward, wondering what had provoked the Martial Emperor. Wang Xianzhi's eyes burned with excitement, his blood boiling as it hadn't in years. The sword demon of the Song dynasty was defeated by him. Even the sword demon admitted inferiority. This is a worthy opponent like no other. His focus was entirely on the legendary duel between the sword demon and Ning Changge. As a martial fanatic, his heart was set ablaze. Long ago, when Ning Changge first displayed strength approaching that of a land immortal, Wang Xianzhi had taken notice. But at the time, he felt it was too early. The boy had not yet ascended, though his monstrous talent was undeniable. Now, things were different. The sword demon's defeat at Ning Changge's hands meant that the little immortal was now his equal. Wang Xianzhi was also intrigued by the Immortal Dao. Perhaps it could enhance his own martial path. Another system of cultivation? I must see it for myself, to refine the forces of heaven and earth. I'll witness it with my own eyes. His eyes blazed with fervor. In the 9 provinces, geniuses of Ning Changge's caliber were rarer than rare. Wang Xianzhi longed for a duel with him. Once I complete my current seclusion and perfect my martial path, I will seek out the Immortal Dao. His confidence was unshakable. For years, he had dominated the Jianghu of Liang, calling himself second to none. Even if the 9 strongest martial artists joined forces, he was certain he could defeat them all. His belief in his invincibility was absolute. Upon learning of the Immortal Dao, he did not see it as a threat to martial arts. Instead, he resolved to use martial arts to break through the limits of the 9 provinces. Such was the invincible confidence of Wang Xianzhi. Number Mongol capital in the Grand Hall of the Mongol Empire, Genghis Khan sat at the head of the table, his imposing figure radiating authority. Surrounding him were his ministers and 3 of the empire's greatest warriors, Huang'ai Sihinfei, national preceptor Bathsheba, and demon sect leader Ning Changge, all land immortals of formidable strength. The topic of discussion was none other than the events at Wudang. Genghis Khan's tiger-like eyes swept over the assembly as he spoke, his voice filled with a domineering presence. If I recall correctly, our Mongol secret sect has suffered repeated setbacks at the hands of this little immortal of Wudang. Even our newly ascended living Buddha fell at Mount Zhongnan. What do you make of this? The room fell silent, the weight of his words pressing down on everyone. The mention of the Immortal Dao sent ripples of unease through the assembly. Huang'ai Sihinfei was the first to speak, bowing respectfully. Great Khan, in terms of strength alone, Wudang is already formidable. The little immortal surpasses the sword demon, and with Zhang Sanfeng and the spirit monkey, their top-tier combat power is unmatched. To challenge Wudang head-on would be no easy task. The 3 great warriors exchanged glances, fully aware of the gap between themselves and Ning Changge. Ning Changge added gravely, "The Great Khan must consider deploying the Mongol army if we are to obtain the secrets of the Immortal Dao." The ministers shuddered. Deploying an army was the ultimate weapon of a dynasty, capable of even suppressing land immortals. With a well-trained force, the combined military might could rival even the heavens. Genghis Khan nodded slowly, his eyes glinting with cold light. If the Immortal Dao truly grants eternal life, then it is worth any cost. We will monitor Wudang closely. As for the army, it depends on the Ming Emperor's stance. His lips curled into a cold smile. If I were the Ming Emperor, I wouldn't be able to sleep knowing such an uncontrollable force existed within my borders. Number Sui dynasty, Siheng Jingjai, the atmosphere was suffocatingly tense. The disciples dared not speak as Fan Qinghui, pale-faced, recounted the events at Tianzhu Peak to earthly none. When she mentioned the sword demon's defeat at Ning Changge's hands, the earthly nun's expression darkened with shock. 1 month from now, Ning Changge will come to Siheng Jingjai to settle the Tao-Buddhist rivalry. The earthly nun's voice trembled. This era's Tao-Buddhist conflict was about to reignite, and she had been one of its instigators. Her heart was heavy with regret. Fan Qinghui nodded silently. The disciples turned to the earthly nun for guidance. "Summon all Buddhist sects to Siheng Jingjai. We will need their help to face this crisis." Number Ming Imperial Palace at the 9-layered dragon platform, the Ming Emperor gazed into the distance, his expression unreadable as he listened to the reports from the Jinyue. No one dared answer his whispered question. "If it does, then the Immortal Dao must belong to me. No one else may claim it." His eyes burned with ambition. "Proclaim Wudang as the foremost Taoist sect of the Ming dynasty. Bestow upon the little immortal the title of Supreme Mystic Immortal and gift him 3,000 volumes of Taoist scriptures." This was his test. If Ning Changge offered the secrets of the Immortal Dao willingly, there would be no need for further action. Number across the 9 provinces, the events at Wudang sent shockwaves through the world. In the Jianghu, all eyes were on Ning Changge's unmatched strength and the upcoming Tao-Buddhist rivalry. In the courts, the focus was on the Immortal Dao, a path to immortality. The 9 provinces were in turmoil, but atop Tianzhu Peak, Wudang remained a haven of tranquility. Ning Changge sat cross-legged, reading a Taoist scripture. A faint smile graced his lips as he sensed the spiritual energy surging from the spirit herb garden. When Huang Rong asked what had happened, he laughed. "The vermilion fruit has ripened. My opportunity for advancement has arrived." From the moment the spirit herb garden was established, the vermilion fruit had been planted within it. Over the years, it had been nourished by the spiritual energy of the heavenly river, the elixirs from the mountain and river spirit-gathering furnace, and later, the celestial essence of the starry liquid. Now at long last it had fully ripened. Ning Changge's eyes lit up with joy, while Huang Rong, standing beside him, tilted her head in curiosity. Vermilion fruit! She had seen the miraculous spirit peach tree on Peach Blossom Island, but this vermilion fruit was entirely new to her. Ning Changge smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, they both appeared within the spirit herb garden. The moment they arrived, Huang Rong was overwhelmed by the dense, spiritual, medicinal energy that filled the air. Her eyes widened in wonder, and she shivered slightly, as if touched by the garden's vitality. Everywhere she looked, there were extraordinary spiritual herbs. Ginseng, lingjai, fodi root, purple perilla. Each herb exuded a magical aura, their medicinal energy visible to the naked eye. Even the treasures of emperors paled in comparison. Among the herbs, she spotted a tree identical to the spirit peach tree from Peach Blossom Island, though it was still young. Her gaze shifted and she froze. At the center of the garden stood a small tree, no taller than a person, swaying gently as it radiated waves of spiritual energy. At its crown was a single fruit, as large as a fist and as red as blood jade, glowing with an otherworldly light. Though there was only one, its presence overshadowed all else. Huang Rong swallowed instinctively, drawn to the fruit's inexplicable allure. Beneath the tree stood a graceful figure in white. Jai Xiaofu, sensing movement, turned her head. Upon seeing Ning Changge, her face lit up with joy. "Little immortal, the vermilion fruit." Ning Changge smiled and waved a hand dismissively. "I already know, you've done well." His words of encouragement filled Jai Xiaofu with a sense of recognition and warmth. She bowed respectfully, her voice humble. "It's my duty, nothing more." For Jai Xiaofu, tending to the spirit herb garden was not just a task, but a blessing. The garden's spiritual energy had transformed her over time. Even without deliberate cultivation, she felt her strength growing steadily, as if a mysterious power was nurturing her from within. Her gratitude toward Ning Changge was boundless. Not only had he avenged her family's destruction, but he had also given her a sanctuary in the spirit herb garden. She poured her heart into caring for the herbs, hoping to repay him in some small way. Now, with the vermilion fruit ripened, her efforts had borne fruit, literally. Huang Rong, meanwhile, observed Jai Xiaofu with curiosity. She had heard of this veiled woman but hadn't expected to find her at Wudang. There was an ethereal quality to Jai Xiaofu that Huang Rong couldn't help but admire. Ning Changge nodded in satisfaction. Taking Jai Xiaofu in as a spiritual farmer had been a wise decision. Without her meticulous care, the vermilion fruit might not have ripened so quickly. He began to consider how he might further prepare Jai Xiaofu and Huang Rong for the Immortal Dao. Jai Xiaofu's role in tending the spirit herb garden could be enhanced with proper guidance. As for Huang Rong, she would need a secondary focus, perhaps alchemy, artifact forging, or talisman crafting. Ning Changge decided to observe her a while longer before making a decision. But now was not the time for such considerations. With a wave of his hand, the vermilion fruit detached from its branch and floated into his palm. He could feel the dense, potent medicinal energy within it and couldn't help but smile. He had been waiting for this moment. The 2 Buddha relics he had prepared were ready. With the vermilion fruit, he could finally refine the Bodhi pill and advance to the mid-foundation establishment stage. The vermilion fruit tree would continue to be nurtured, and its next fruit would be even more potent, a testament to Ning Changge's innovative cultivation methods. For example, the spirit tea tree he had once cultivated was now evolving into the legendary enlightenment tea tree. Similarly, the spirit peach branches he had brought from Peach Blossom Island had grown into a new 5-element spirit peach tree. These were treasures that would aid him on his path to the Tao. Ning Changge nodded to Jai Zairofu before vanishing from the garden. Jai Zairofu stared at the spot where he had stood, a hint of melancholy in her eyes. She quickly buried her feelings, knowing they were futile. Turning back to the spiritual trees, her gaze grew resolute. "I'll nurture you into spiritual and celestial trees." A faint green light emanated from her body, resonating with the herbs around her, accelerating their growth. Back in the scripture pavilion, Ning Changge began preparing himself. Huang Rong, sensing the gravity of the moment, quietly moved to a corner to study her texts. Moments later, Ning Changge opened his eyes, which gleamed with five-colored light. With a wave of his hand, the blood-red vermilion fruit and two golden Buddha relics floated before him. He had long since devised a pill formula to maximize their medicinal potential. He called it the Bodhi pill. With the vermilion fruit now ripened, he made slight adjustments to the formula to ensure optimal results. The mountain and river spirit gathering furnace emerged from his dantian, manifesting before him. Buzz. The Samadhi true fire flared to life, enveloping the furnace. Huang Rong, drawn by the commotion, watched in awe. This was her first time witnessing Ning Changge refine a pill. With a flick of his fingers, the vermilion fruit and Buddha relics flew into the furnace, the Samadhi true fire blazing even brighter. One by one, auxiliary herbs emerged from his storage ring, joining the mix. The furnace, with its expansive interior and 99 spatial seals, kept the ingredients perfectly separated. The Samadhi true fire refined them with unparalleled efficiency. At critical moments, the celestial starry liquid within the furnace blended seamlessly with the ingredients, enhancing their potency. The result would be a pill of unmatched quality. Ning Changge worked with ease. The mountain and river spirit-gathering furnace made alchemy almost effortless. He only needed to occasionally adjust the process with his spiritual sense. As he refined the pill, he began to prepare himself for the breakthrough to come. Inside the furnace, miraculous phenomena unfolded. At times, a golden Buddha's light shone brightly. At others, a weeping bodhisattva appeared. Sometimes, a spiritual tree seemed to take root. Huang Rong was mesmerized. She had never imagined alchemy could be so wondrous. It felt as though an unseen force was drawing her in, and she couldn't look away. Even the book in her hands slipped unnoticed to the floor. For the first time, she felt she had found her path. Time passed. A day later, the scripture pavilion was abuzz with the light and energy emanating from the furnace. The disciples of Wudang had grown accustomed to such phenomena, but the visiting land immortals were visibly shaken. Ning Changge finally opened his eyes, his face alight with joy. Before him, the mountain and river spirit-gathering furnace trembled, emitting waves of spiritual light. A red pill marked with golden patterns and about the size of a longan floated into view. The Bodhi pill was complete. Holding the pill in his palm, Ning Changge marveled at its potency. The spiritual fragrance alone was enough to invigorate his spirit. The pill would not only enhance his mana, but also strengthen his spiritual essence. It was the most powerful pill he had ever refined. Taking a deep breath, he calmed his excitement and swallowed the pill. Boom! The moment the pill entered his body, an explosion of medicinal energy surged through him. Five-colored light radiated from his body, enveloping the entire scripture pavilion. Outside, the spirit monkey paused midlisten with the condor. Standing by the pavilion, it signaled to the condor with its eyes. It was time to guard the master. Within the pavilion, Ning Changge was immersed in ecstasy. His cultivation in the transformed Wudang, aided by celestial liquids, had been steady but slow. Now, the surge of energy from the Bodhi pill was 100, even 1,000 times greater. In his dantian, his mana vortex spun wildly, devouring the incoming energy. The vortex expanded, its power growing exponentially. The five-element spirit swords hummed with joy. The mana then flowed into the five-element spirit tree, where it was refined and purified. The tree began to grow rapidly. 1.2 zhang, 1.5 zhang, 2.6 zhang, 3 zhang, boom. When the energy was fully absorbed, the five-element spirit tree stood 3 zhang tall, 3 times its previous height. Ning Changge's cultivation had advanced. He had reached the mid-foundation establishment stage. Feeling the immense power coursing through him, Ning Changge smiled. The path to immortality was fraught with challenges, but his strength had grown significantly. At this point, I may not be invincible in the 9 provinces, but I'm close. His spiritual essence had also solidified further, extending his perception to a 100-mile radius. Not only that, but my lifespan has increased by another 1,000 years. I can now live for 3,000 years. He was thrilled. The road to immortality was long, but he had taken another solid step forward. With this trajectory, reaching the golden core stage, and a lifespan of 10,000 years was within sight. The only regret was that the innate divine ability of the five elements spirit tree had not yet fully formed. The radiant light at the tree's crown was on the verge of completion but needed one final push. Next time I advance, it will surely manifest, he thought, his anticipation growing. For now, he was content. Calling the spirit monkey and the condor inside, he began to teach them. Observing the condor, he saw its potential clearly. The condor was a spiritual anomaly, its body and wings far surpassing ordinary beasts. With its innate strength and understanding of martial arts, it rivaled top-tier heavenman experts. From now on, you shall be called Kyudao, inheriting the sword demon's will to seek the Tao. The condor bowed deeply, its eyes filled with gratitude. Ning Changge smiled. With a wave of his hand, he imbued the condor with a new technique, the art of surging winds. This technique suits your speed, train well. Ning Changge had high hopes for the condor. He had carefully observed its natural talents, particularly its unparalleled speed. Once its cultivation advanced, it was highly likely to awaken a speed-related divine ability, or perhaps even transform into the mythical golden-winged roc, a creature capable of soaring 90,000 miles with a single flap of its wings. To aid in this process, Ning Changge had created the art of surging winds, a technique specifically designed to accelerate the condor's path to awakening its divine abilities. Of course, reaching such heights would not be easy, but it was a goal to strive for. Ning Changge himself would also benefit from the process, drawing inspiration to create his own speed-based divine ability. At his level, it wasn't just about reading Taoist scriptures to deepen his foundation. It was about experimenting with new techniques to uncover opportunities for growth. The spirit monkey, the condor, the sword Emperor Jiu, and even the monument of 10,000 swords, all were part of his grand design. In the future, spreading the Immortal Dao to the masses would follow the same principle. Only by gathering the collective strength of all beings could Ning Changge progress further on the path of the Immortal Dao. He had already sensed that the 9 provinces were bound by certain limitations. To grow beyond them, he would need to break through these constraints. With a single touch of spiritual light to the condor's head, countless profound insights flooded its mind. Its eyes filled with awe and reverence. Unlike the spirit monkey, whose respect for Ning Changge was born of admiration, the condor's reverence stemmed from fear. Bowing deeply, the condor focused on the newfound knowledge in its mind, its heart overwhelmed by the profundity of the technique. Ning Changge waved a hand dismissively and said, "Train diligently. In half a month, you and the spirit monkey will accompany your senior brothers down the mountain." The upcoming Tao Buddhist rivalry was not something Ning Changge planned to attend personally. With the spirit monkey, the condor, and his senior brothers, Wudang had more than enough strength. The injuries to the martial wills of the heavenly monk and earthly nun would provide a valuable opportunity for the Wudang disciples to gain experience. After all, they couldn't remain under his protection forever. Of course, if the Buddhists dared to escalate, Ning Changge would not stand idly by. Still, my senior brother's strength could use a little improvement, he mused. Glancing at the remnants of the Bodhi pill in the mountain and river spirit-gathering furnace, he noted that while the leftovers were useless to him, they were still potent treasures, far superior to the so-called divine pills of the 9 provinces. With a little refinement, these remnants could be used to enhance the strength of the 7 heroes of Wudang and some of the third narration disciples. The Samadhi true fire roared to life once more. Ning Changge glanced at Wang Rong, who was watching from a distance, and smiled. "Ronger, come here." He had noticed her fascination during his refinement of the Bodhi pill. Perhaps alchemy was her calling. He decided to start teaching her the basics. Wang Rong's face lit up with a radiant smile as she hurried over. Number the Ming Emperor's decree. Meanwhile, the events of Zhang Sanfeng's centenary celebration continued to spread, shaking the 9 provinces. Initially, only a few major powers were aware, but gradually, the entire Jianghu learned of what had transpired. The term Immortal Dao had officially entered the lexicon of the 9 provinces, a new system of cultivation. The revelation sent shockwaves through the martial world. Countless people speculated about the power of the Immortal Dao and how it might be cultivated. After all, martial arts had been the foundation of the 9 provinces for over 1,000,000 years. While many were curious and intrigued, others were skeptical or dismissive. but none dared voice their doubts openly. Ning Changge's strength was simply too overwhelming. He now stood at the pinnacle of the 9 provinces, alongside ancient monsters and emperors. It was hard to imagine how much stronger he might become in the years to come. Some even predicted that within 20 years, Ning Changge might ascend to the very peak of the 9 provinces. At that point, the Jianghu would enter the era of Ning Changge. Many were eager to learn why the Immortal Dao was so powerful. Some had already begun traveling to Wudang, hoping to become disciples and learn its secrets. Ning Changge's reputation had reached unprecedented heights. Aside from the Immortal Dao, the Dao-Buddhist rivalry was the other hot topic. Ning Changge had declared that Wudang disciples would visit Xianxia in a month to settle the score for disrupting Zhang Sanfeng's celebration. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Buddhists, known for their arrogance and extensive influence, would not back down easily. With numerous powerful figures and allies, they were unlikely to submit, even in the face of Ning Changge's might. This Dao-Buddhist conflict promised to be anything but simple. Some even speculated that it might escalate into a battle involving land immortals. As the month progressed, the 9 provinces buzzed with activity. Many flocked to the Sui dynasty, eager to witness the confrontation. Though the time frame was short, the anticipation was palpable. In contrast to the growing chaos in the Jianghu, Wudang remained a haven of tranquility. Those seeking the Immortal Dao found themselves unable to meet Ning Changge. The time was not yet right. Ning Changge was preparing meticulously. His plan was to first establish a foundational Immortal Dao system for Wudang before spreading it to the world, a gradual, step-by-step process. The Ming Emperor's edict one day, the peace of Wudang was interrupted. By decree of His Majesty the Ming Emperor, Wudang is hereby declared the foremost sacred site of Taoism. The Little Immortal is granted the title of Supreme Mystic Immortal. 3,000 volumes of Taoist scriptures are bestowed upon Wudang. The sharp voice of the imperial eunuch echoed across Wudang. For once, Ning Changge emerged from the scripture pavilion. After all, this matter concerned him. Zhang Sanfeng, ever calm, responded simply, "Thank His Majesty for his kindness." There was no joy in his tone, nor was there in Ning Changge's expression. Titles like Foremost Sacred Site and Supreme Mystic Immortal were meaningless. Only the 3,000 volumes of Taoist scriptures held any real value. The intent behind the decree, however, was clear. The Ming Emperor was asserting his authority. The message was simple. No matter how strong Wudang or the Little Immortal became, they were still part of the Ming dynasty. The old celestial master and the other land immortals watched from a distance, their expressions grave. The old celestial master, familiar with the Ming Emperor's ambitions, suspected ulterior motives behind the decree. The eunuch, wearing a broad smile, addressed Zhang Sanfeng and Ning Changge. "Congratulations to Zhang Zhenren and the Little Immortal. Wudang's fame brings glory to the Ming dynasty. His Majesty is most pleased and has praised Wudang repeatedly." Zhang Sanfeng smiled faintly, while Ning Changge remained expressionless. The eunuch hesitated, his smile faltering. Internally, he scoffed at what he perceived as the arrogance of mere martial artists. Feigning casual interest, he added, "I've heard that the Little Immortal has created a new system of cultivation called the Immortal Dao. Truly remarkable. His Majesty has expressed great admiration and would love to discuss it with you someday." Ning Changge met the eunuch's gaze, his expression calm. "I'm sure the opportunity will arise. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." Zhang Sanfeng also bowed slightly before departing. The eunuch, his face stiff, forced a smile and followed Song Yuanqiao, who had stepped forward to escort him. As the eunuch left, his heart burned with frustration. He had hoped to coax information about the Immortal Dao, but had been rebuffed. The Heaven Man tomb stirs back at the scripture pavilion. Zhang Sanfeng approached Ning Changge, a trace of concern in his eyes. "Changge, the Ming Emperor covets the secrets of the Immortal Dao, and he's not alone. The desire for eternal life is shared by all emperors. The Ming Emperor may not let this go." The old celestial master and the others, though silent, shared his concern. No matter how strong Wudang was, it could not stand against the armies of a dynasty. Unlike solitary wanderers, sects like Wudang had roots and responsibilities, making them vulnerable. Ning Changge chuckled lightly. "Let's see who dares to make the first move." His confidence left everyone momentarily stunned. Zhang Sanfeng suddenly felt his worries dissipate. His disciple had always acted with foresight. If Ning Changge had chosen to reveal the Immortal Dao, He must have already considered the consequences. Recalling Ning Changge's vision of transforming the 9 provinces into a land of immortals, Zhang Sanfeng realized his disciples' ambitions were far greater than he had imagined. With a smile, he said, "Perhaps I'm worrying over nothing." At that moment, Ning Changge's expression shifted. His gaze turned toward the Heaven Man tomb. A surge of intertwined life and death energy erupted from the tomb, accompanied by a powerful wave of spiritual force. The old celestial master and the others followed his gaze, their faces filled with shock. Ning Changge's eyes gleamed with excitement. "The Heaven Man tomb is undergoing a transformation. I once buried Sword Emperor Jiu there. His body retained a trace of vitality. Today he may break free from death and be reborn." His words left everyone in stunned silence. "Reborn from death?" The imperial eunuch, struggling to maintain his composure, felt his mind reel. The resurrection of the dead was unheard of, a concept that defied all logic. Could the Immortal Dao truly grant eternal life? If it can bring the dead back to life, then extending one's lifespan must be possible. The eunuch's breathing quickened as he realized the magnitude of what he was witnessing. All eyes turned to the tomb, where black and white energies swirled, forming the shapes of 2 dragons, one radiating life, the other death. The dragons coiled around the ancient tree where Sword Emperor Jiu was buried, their energies merging and transforming. Before the astonished crowd, the ancient tree began to shake violently. Its branches, glowing with Taoist energy, shed leaves that shimmered with the essence of life and death. Suddenly, a figure shot out from the tree, his aura overwhelming. Sword Emperor Jiu had returned to life. Chapter 120. The Chi of Life and Death Dragons, comprehending the Tao of life and death. Ning Changge's 3 pouches. Even from a distance, with black and white energy swirling around the figure, those familiar with him could immediately recognize his identity. Sword Emperor Jiu, there was no doubt, it was him, hiss. The entire Tianzhu Peak was filled with the sound of gasps. Countless eyes widened in disbelief as they stared at the awe-inspiring figure. The Sword Emperor Jiu, who had once been dead, now radiated an even more terrifying aura than when he had first ascended the mountain. Su Fengnian stood frozen, torn between excitement and confusion. The Sword Emperor Jiu before him seemed like a completely different person, exuding an unparalleled sharpness and overwhelming sword intent. His mere presence carried the bearing of a peerless master. Zhang Sanfeng, his eyes trembling, spoke softly, his words sending shockwaves through everyone's hearts. Sword Emperor Jiu is about to ascend to the land immortal realm. The other land immortals could see it clearly. Around Sword Emperor Jiu, the forces of heaven and earth were converging, and strange phenomena were beginning to manifest. Years ago, Sword Emperor Jiu had climbed the mountain with the intent to challenge Ning Changge, hoping to use the pressure to take the final step toward ascension. But he had failed. He had lost sight of his original purpose in wielding the sword, straying from the path. Now, having been reborn, he had filled the final gap in his foundation. His ascension to the land immortal realm was inevitable. Sword Emperor Jiu, he's really alive. Little Immortal wasn't lying. The Immortal Dao, it's truly beyond comprehension. If such methods could be used by the Ming Emperor, then, the imperial eunuch trembled with excitement. He had just witnessed a miracle. This trip to Wudang had far exceeded his expectations. If he could safely deliver this news, the Ming Emperor would undoubtedly reward him handsomely. His eyes remained fixed on Sword Emperor Jiu, more anxious than anyone else, fearing the man might suddenly collapse. All eyes were on the figure in the sky. Meanwhile, Ning Changge's eyes glowed with 5-colored light. As Sword Emperor Jiu's vitality fully recovered, the mysteries of life and death became vividly clear before him. The black and white energy swirling around Sword Emperor Jiu was the transformation of the black and white dragons from earlier. In Ning Changge's mind, countless insights began to emerge. The interplay of the 5 elements, life and death, and yin and yang, these profound truths flowed through him, weaving together into a tapestry of understanding. An invisible aura began to rise from his body, causing those around him to instinctively step back. Seeing Ning Changge's state, the onlookers were awestruck. So this is what it means to be a monstrous genius. He can enter a state of enlightenment at any moment, drawing insights from everything around him. While everyone had witnessed Sword Emperor Jiu's resurrection, their understanding was superficial at best. Only Ning Changge had pierced through to the essence, elevating his comprehension to new heights. For the first time, They began to understand why Ning Changge's strength was so terrifying at such a young age. If he could enter enlightenment so effortlessly and find meaning in everything he saw, how could he not progress rapidly? Their eyes filled with admiration and respect. But Ning Changge was entirely immersed in his own world. His goals had always been clear. First, to master the 5 elements and establish a foundation, and then to use the 5 elements as a basis to explore other Daos. Now, the Tao of life and death lay before him. The 5 elements are interconnected, capable of infinite transformations. Wood governs vitality, giving rise to life. Metal governs destruction, giving rise to death. But life is not exclusive to wood, nor is death exclusive to metal. In truth, all 5 elements contain aspects of life and death. Ning Changge's eyes grew brighter. The insights within him erupted like a flood, crystallizing into understanding. You have observed the entire process of Sword Emperor Jiu's resurrection, gaining initial insight into the rules governing the transformation between life and death. By integrating this with the 5 elements, you have discovered the root of how the 5 elements manifest life and death. You have created a minor divine ability, Life and Death Dragon Kai. You have comprehended the essence of the 5 elements' connection to life and death. Your foundation in the 5 elements has evolved further, and your mastery of the 5 elements Tao has deepened. You have gained initial insight into the Tao of life and death. Ning Changge's glowing eyes gradually returned to normal, a deep sense of joy filling him. The Tao of life and death was now within his grasp. Raising his hand, he channeled his mana, which now shimmered with black and white hues. The interplay of these colors with the 5-colored light was mesmerizing, a testament to their profound nature. Within his dantian, the 5-element spirit tree pulsed with light. Some of its leaves began to transform, and a section of its branches turned black and white. These changes reflected Ning Changge's newfound understanding of the Tao of life and death. This was his foundation, his core. Previously, he had only touched upon the 5 elements Tao. Now, he had begun to delve into the Tao of life and death. In practical terms, Ning Changge could now imbue his mana with the mysteries of life and death. What had once been purely 5 elements mana was now infused with the power to manipulate life and death. Moreover, at the crown of the spirit tree, a faint black and white light began to form, mirroring the 5-colored light nearby. This signified the birth of another divine ability. Though it was not yet as developed as the 5-colored light, its potential was undeniable. For the first time, Ning Changge realized that the divine ability forming from the 5-colored light was directly tied to his mastery of the 5 elements Tao. This revelation filled him with anticipation. Beyond his insights into life and death, Ning Changge had also created a new minor divine ability, Life and Death Dragon Chi. This ability was no less potent than his Samadhi True Fire. A versatile energy, it could transform endlessly, offensively, defensively, or even as an enhancement to spiritual artifacts. If Ning Changge wished, he could even use it to create a temporary avatar imbued with his power. Additionally, if someone were on the brink of death, with their vitality lingering for no more than 3 days, Ning Changge could use this ability to bring them back to life. In short, its applications were boundless. Ning Changge couldn't help but smile. The rewards from this experience were immense. His patience in helping Sword Emperor Jiu and waiting for this moment had paid off handsomely. As Ning Changge opened his eyes, the crowd realized he had completed his enlightenment. Though curious about what he had gained, they refrained from asking, knowing only that he had grown even stronger. Ning Changge paid no mind to their astonished gazes. Looking skyward, he saw that Sword Emperor Jiu had completed his resonance with the heavens and earth. Phenomena radiated from Tianzhu Peak, spreading across the Ming dynasty. Sword Emperor Jiu's voice echoed through the heavens. Today, I, Sword Emperor Jiu, ascend to the land Immortal Realm. The scene was reminiscent of Zhang Sanfeng's own ascension. It was clear that Sword Emperor Jiu's potential was exceptional. Even as a newly ascended land immortal, his strength surpassed that of most others. Ning Changge understood why. The Sword Emperor Jiu of the past would not have reached this level. But now, having been reborn and tempered by the energies of life and death, he had undergone a profound transformation. The crowd gazed at the figure in the sky with envy. After all, the land Immortal Realm was the ultimate aspiration of every martial artist in the 9 provinces. But despite his newfound power, Sword Emperor Jiu descended humbly, bowing deeply before Ning Changge. His gratitude was evident in his every word. Sword Emperor Jiu, thanks the little immortal for saving my life and guiding my path. This debt I shall never forget." His sincerity was unmistakable. Ning Changge accepted the bow without hesitation. He had earned it. If not for Ning Changge's intervention, Sword Emperor Jiu would have perished long ago. His revival and ascension were the results of Ning Changge's efforts and insights. The crowd held their breath. To see a land immortal bow so deeply was a testament to Ning Changge's unparalleled status. Ning Changge nodded calmly. "It was your destiny. Without your comprehension of the Azure Dragon Sword Chi, this rebirth would not have been possible. Now that you've returned to life, you may leave the mountain." Su Fengnian's eyes lit up, but his excitement was short-lived. Sword Emperor Jiu spoke again, his tone respectful. "Little immortal, I have a request. Speak. I wish to remain at Wudang as the guardian of the Heaven Man tomb." His gaze was distant, as if looking toward the martial Emperor city. "In the past, I climbed Wudang to challenge Wang Xianxia. Now, having been reborn, I fear my survival would set a dangerous precedent. Those who come to challenge Wudang might grow complacent, thinking they too could survive. I am willing to serve as the tomb's guardian, ensuring its sanctity." His words were sincere. The crowd was moved. Su Fengnian, however, was visibly distressed, though he dared not speak out. Ning Changge regarded Sword Emperor Jiu with mild surprise. "You no longer wish to challenge Wang Xianxia?" Sword Emperor Jiu smiled wryly. "Now that I've ascended, I understand the vast gap between us. When I am ready, I will seek your permission to borrow a sword and face him." Ning Changge nodded. "Very well, if that is your wish, you may remain. The tomb's energies of life and death will suit your path." Sword Emperor Jiu bowed deeply, his gratitude evident. The Wudang disciples were elated. Another land immortal had joined their ranks, further solidifying Wudang's strength. The imperial eunuch, however, felt a chill. The Ming Emperor already viewed Wudang with suspicion. The addition of another land immortal would only heighten his concerns. Su Fengnian finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Old Emperor, are you truly staying at Wudang?" Sword Emperor Jiu smiled faintly. "Tell the Northern Liang King that I remain loyal in spirit, but my life now belongs to the little immortal. If you wish to speak with me, you're welcome to visit Wudang." Su Fengnian was left speechless, his emotions a mix of frustration and resignation. Number, the Dao Buddhist rivalry approaches. News of Sword Emperor Jiu's ascension spread quickly, shocking the 9 provinces. While some doubted the claims of his resurrection, others believed wholeheartedly, further fueling curiosity about the Immortal Dao. For the emperors of the 9 provinces, the possibility of extending life, or even achieving immortality, was an irresistible temptation. As the Dao Buddhist rivalry drew closer, anticipation reached a fever pitch. Many flocked to Xianxia, eager to witness the historic confrontation. At Wudang, however, peace reigned. Song Yuanqiao, standing before Ning Changge, couldn't help but ask again, "Junior brother, are you really not going?" Ning Changge smiled faintly. "Senior brother, there's no need to worry. With Master and the old Celestial Master present, it will be enough." "But," Song Yuanqiao hesitated. While he trusted their strength, the Buddhists had overwhelming numbers, including twice as many land immortals. Ning Changge chuckled. "Senior brother, take these 3 pouches. If you encounter an unbeatable foe, open them one by one." With a wave of his hand, 3 small pouches appeared before Song Yuanqiao. His eyes lit up, his worries vanishing instantly. "You should have said so earlier, junior brother. I'll leave you to your scriptures then." With that, he dashed off, his spirits lifted. Ning Changge shook his head, amused, and returned to his studies. For others, the Dao Buddhist rivalry was a monumental event. For Ning Changge, it was merely a ripple on the path to immortality, a minor wave in the vast ocean of his journey. Number, chapter 121. Heroes gather at Emperor Treading Peak. Wudang stuns the world. 4 land immortal level combatants. With the departure of the Wudang disciples, Tianzhu Peak became much quieter, a state that Ning Changge thoroughly enjoyed. Without interruptions, he could fully immerse himself in reading Taoist scriptures and meditating on the Tao of life and death, which he had only recently begun to comprehend. This was the path he intended to pursue in the future. Still, his spiritual sense constantly enveloped Tianzhu Peak. He was curious to see if anyone would dare to act recklessly in Wudang during his absence. Number, the Wudang procession descends. As the Wudang disciples descended the mountain, their journey immediately caused a stir. The presence of the spirit monkey and the condor was impossible to ignore. Their striking appearances and imposing auras made their identities easy to guess. Of course, the Wudang disciples had no intention of hiding their affiliation. The Jianghu erupted with excitement. Crowds gathered to watch the Wudang disciples head toward the Sui dynasty, with many choosing to follow them. The upcoming confrontation at Xianxia to settle the Tao-Buddhist rivalry was destined to be a historic event, one that could potentially reshape the 9 provinces. Still, some were puzzled. Why isn't the little immortal here? Not even Zhang Zhenren or the old celestial master. Everyone knew that the Buddhists wouldn't admit fault so easily. A battle was inevitable. But could the Wudang disciples alone withstand the might of so many Buddhist powerhouses? "You fool," someone scoffed. "Do you think someone like the little immortal or Zhang Zhenren would reveal themselves unless they wanted to? If they don't want to be seen, you won't see them." The crowd nodded in realization. The calm and confident demeanor of Song Yuanqiao and the other Wudang disciples only reinforced this belief, but they were only half correct. While Zhang Sanfeng and the old celestial master followed discreetly behind the procession, Ning Changge remained seated atop Tianzhu Peak. News of the Wudang disciples' departure spread like wildfire. Rumors that Wudang was left without its strongest defenders reached various factions and dynasties, stirring hidden currents. Emperor Treading Peak, home to Xianxia, was a sacred Buddhist site. Towering and majestic, the mountain was both a natural fortress and a place of spiritual retreat. The disciples of Xianxia were all women, many of whom practiced Buddhism while maintaining their secular lives. Historically, they would descend the mountain during times of turmoil to support righteous rulers. Of course, their motives were far from pure. Normally, Xianxia was a tranquil place of meditation, but today it was a hub of chaos. While the mountain gates remained closed, thousands of Jianghu practitioners had gathered outside. Nearby peaks were filled with martial artists, their presence creating an atmosphere of tension. Major factions from the Sui dynasty and across the 9 provinces had converged here. Even some land immortals were present, though they remained hidden from view. The sheer number of martial artists put immense pressure on the disciples of Xianxia. They dared not display their usual arrogance, lest they provoke the crowd. Today marked the 1-month deadline set by Ning Changge. "Do you think the little immortal is as terrifying as the rumors say?" Bu Jingyun asked Naifeng, his fellow disciple under Xingba. The two had yet to rebel against their master and were still part of the world's society. The 9 provinces were not just divided among dynasties. The central region, known as Jiangtu, was a hotbed of martial activity. It was home to powerful figures like Nameless, Sword Demon Dugu Jian, and Xingba himself, all of whom were among the strongest land immortals. Despite the ambitions of the surrounding dynasties, Jiangtu remained independent due to its formidable martial forces. Naifeng shook his head slightly. "Anyone who can defeat the sword demon must be incredibly powerful, but I've heard the little immortal isn't with the Wudang procession. It's hard to say if he'll show up." Their conversation was interrupted by a voice. "Of course he'll come. Over the past few days, we've seen at least 10 Buddhist powerhouses enter Xianxia. This includes figures from Tianzhu Buddhism, Lulan Buddhism, and other Western Buddhist sects. With so many gathered, the little immortal would have to come to keep them in check." The speaker was Bayan Bufan, a member of the Yinqiu sect from the Sui dynasty. The Yinqiu sect had risen to prominence after Ning Changge decimated many of the other demonic sects. Bu Jingyun and Nai Feng glanced at Bayan Bufan, but didn't respond. As disciples of Jiangtu, they held little regard for martial artists from other regions, respecting only those at the level of land immortals. Still, Bayan Bufan wasn't wrong. The Buddhists had gathered in force, with more than 10 Buddhist powerhouses present at Xianxia. The pressure Ning Changge had placed on them was immense. As the crowd debated, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. This gathering was even more chaotic than Zhang Sanfeng's centenary celebration, which had primarily attracted righteous factions. Here, both righteous and demonic forces had come, with Heavenman experts as numerous as the fish in a river. "Why aren't they here yet?" Some grew impatient as the sun began to set. Just over an hour remained before nightfall, yet there was no sign of the Wudang disciples. Then, those with keen senses turned their gazes to the horizon. "They're here," a procession of figures appeared in the distance, their presence commanding attention. The Wudang disciples advanced with unwavering confidence, their pace steady yet swift. Within moments, they had crossed the distance and arrived at the foot of Emperor Treading Peak. The crowd observed them closely. The Wudang group consisted of several dozen individuals. At the forefront were the 7 heroes of Wudang, led by Song Yuanqiao. Thanks to the spiritual pills provided by Ning Changge, their strength had surged, with each of them now approaching the peak of the Heaven Man realm. Behind them were dozens of third narration disciples, all of whom were at least at the Grandmaster level, powerful enough to serve as leaders in smaller sects. What an impressive group of disciples! But what truly captured everyone's attention were 3 individuals. The first was the spirit monkey, clad in a gray Taoist robe. The second was the condor, walking upright with an air of majesty. The third was an elderly man in a black Taoist robe, exuding an overwhelming sword intent. Sword Emperor Jiu. The crowd's eyes lit up. Sword Emperor Jiu is really alive? Seeing the once-dead Sword Emperor Jiu standing before them was a shock that words could not describe. Yet the man himself remained calm, his demeanor serene after his journey through life and death. Song Yuanqiao, too, radiated confidence. His hand brushed against the 3 pouches Ning Changge had given him, bolstering his resolve. The disciples of Wudang have come to settle the Tao-Buddhist rivalry. We request an audience with the heavenly monk and earthly nun. His words echoed across the peaks, leaving the crowd in awe. Even the Wudang disciples joined in, their voices resolute. We request an audience with the heavenly monk and earthly nun. Their united front and unwavering determination left a deep impression on the onlookers. All eyes turned to the gates of Xianxia, waiting to see how the Buddhists would respond. Moments later, a soft sigh echoed from within. Our martial wills were shattered by the little immortal. Must Wudang continue to press us? The gates of Xianxia opened, and a procession emerged. Monks, novices, nuns, and even a few strikingly beautiful women stepped forward. At the forefront were the heavenly monk and earthly nun, their expressions weary yet resolute. Unlike their previous appearance, when they had descended through borrowed bodies, this time they stood in their true forms. Song Yuanqiao's gaze sharpened. Press you disrupted my master's centenary celebration. Where was your restraint then? The earthly nun lowered her gaze. We acted only to protect the interests of Shaolin. It was a friendly exchange, nothing more. Friendly exchange? What a joke! Mo Shengu sneered. You're nothing but hypocrites. The earthly nun's disciples glared, but Mo Shengu met their gazes without flinching, drawing amused smiles from the crowd. Song Yuanqiao raised a hand to silence him. Very well. If it was a friendly exchange, then let us continue in that spirit. My junior brother declared a month ago that we would come to Emperor Treading Peak to settle this matter. Do you dare accept? His words were like a blade cutting through the pretense. The heavenly monk's expression darkened. Do you not fear that this will spark a Tao-Buddhist war, plunging the 9 provinces into chaos? Sword Emperor Jiu laughed coldly. We are here to settle a specific grievance. If others wish to interfere, they'll find that Wudang is not so easily intimidated. Tao-Buddhist war? If you want war, then let there be war. His words, imbued with the essence of life and death, sent chills through the crowd. The heavenly monk and earthly nun's calm facades cracked, their faces darkening with anger. Fine, the heavenly monk growled. If Wudang insists on this path, we will not back down. Song Yuanqiao laughed heartily. Good. Let's begin. The crowd buzzed with excitement. The long-awaited confrontation was finally about to unfold. On one side stood the heavenly monk and earthly nun, their strength diminished but still formidable. On the other side were the Wudang disciples, led by Sword Emperor Jiu, the spirit monkey, and the condor, all of whom radiated land immortal evil power. The battle was set to begin, and the world watched with bated breath. Around Emperor Treading Peak, countless eyes were filled with shock. Many experts from the Ming dynasty, who had previously crossed paths with Song Yuanqiao and the Wudang disciples, couldn't believe how powerful they had become. The 7 heroes of Wudang were now strong enough to challenge a land immortal. The spirit monkey and the condor left many breathless. Their strength was terrifying, especially the spirit monkey, whose 12-zhang golden-armored form exuded an overwhelming aura of destruction. Among Wudang's 4 land immortal evil combatants, it stood as the strongest, its every move radiating apocalyptic power. Sword Emperor Jiu, newly ascended to the land immortal realm, also shone brightly. His life-and-death sword Qi carried an unsettling intensity, far surpassing the strength of most newly ascended land immortals. Nai Feng's expression was heavier than ever. Wudang's strength. It's beyond terrifying. Bu Jingyun nodded in agreement. Indeed, Even without the little immortal, Wudang boasts 5 land immortal evil combatants. Across the 9 provinces, they're undoubtedly one of the top powers. The two exchanged glances, each seeing the same thought in the other's eyes. Though Xiangbao was their master, they had begun to sense his growing wariness toward them. They had heard of the prophecy from the Mud Buddha and knew they needed to plan for their future. Wudang might be a good choice. Meanwhile, Wu Zun Bai Xuan no longer carried his earlier amusement. The battle before him was simply too horrifying. 6 land immortal evil combatants clashed, shaking all of Emperor Treading Peak. Mountains and trees were reduced to dust, and even nearby martial artists had to retreat in fear. Even Heavenman experts were terrified of being caught in the crossfire. The unfolding situation was far beyond what anyone had anticipated. Most had expected the little immortal to appear, easily overwhelming the heavenly monk and earthly nun. Perhaps then, the Buddhist powerhouses would intervene, but no one had expected this. Even without Zhang Sanfeng, the Wudang disciples were dominating the heavenly monk and earthly nun. I've heard that Wudang's 7-star sword formation was created by the little immortal himself, Yi Gacheng, a renowned swordsman from the Ming dynasty, remarked. Having witnessed the swordsmanship of both the sword demon and Ning Changge, Yi Gacheng had eagerly come to Emperor Treading Peak, hoping to see more of Ning Changge's techniques. Hearing Yi Gacheng's words, the crowd shuddered. Zhu Yuyan, leader of the Yinqiu sect, added softly, "The spirit monkey and condor are said to be disciples under the little immortal, and from what I've heard, just a month ago, the condor didn't possess this level of strength." The crowd's eyes widened further. Zhu Yuyan's expression was complicated. Though the little immortal wasn't present, his influence was everywhere. Since witnessing Ning Changge's 3-talent sword formation at Mount Amei, where he severed the evil emperor's limbs, Zhu Yuyan had paid close attention to him. She had even considered obtaining the evil emperor's relics to trade for Ning Changge's protection. But then came news of Ning Changge slaying the evil emperor at Mount Zhongnan. The turn of events had been so sudden that Zhu Yuyan could hardly believe it. Both she and Wanwen, her disciple, felt immense gratitude toward Ning Changge. In a way, he had saved them from the constant threat of demonic seeds. Dressed in a black gauze dress, Wanwen spoke. "This sword Emperor Jiu also owes his resurrection and ascension to the little immortal." The crowd was shaken to its core. They hadn't thought much about it before, but now they realized. Wudang's 4 land immortal evil combatants all owed their strength to Ning Changge. Though he wasn't present, his influence loomed large. His ability to elevate others to such heights left everyone in awe. For a moment, reverence for the unseen little immortal filled their hearts. While land immortals represented the pinnacle of martial arts in the 9 provinces, Ning Changge could seemingly create them with ease, a feat that commanded respect. The crowd turned their attention back to the increasingly intense battlefield. Number the battlefield, the heavenly monk, battling both Wudang's 7 heroes and the condor, was struggling. Chanting Buddhist mantras, he unleashed waves of platinum true energy, transforming his body into a radiant white gold form. Legions of silent meditation arhats surged forward, striking with fists and palms imbued with immense power. But they were relentlessly shattered by the combined might of Wudang's 7-star sword Qi and the condor's surging wind blades. The attacks were so overwhelming that he found himself overwhelmed. His robes were torn to shreds, and even his fortified body began to show signs of strain. Finally, he roared in frustration, unable to contain his fury any longer. "If I were at my peak, how could you dare act so arrogantly?" The humiliation of being suppressed by those who were mere children when he roamed freely across the 9 provinces was unbearable. His face flushed red as he spat a mouthful of blood. A massive white gold Buddha with 3 heads and 6 arms materialized beside him, radiating murderous intent, a stark contrast to the serene, silent meditation arhats from before. But Wudang's 7 heroes remained unfazed. "Even at your peak, my junior brother could destroy you with a wave of his hand," Mo Shengu sneered, further enraging the heavenly monk. Mo Shengu noticed that the heavenly monk aimed to break their formation by targeting him first. But he wasn't worried. Sharing a glance with his fellow heroes, they burst into confident laughter. "You know nothing about our junior brother's 7-star sword formation." Buzz, their combined energy surged as one. Celestial energy descended upon them, amplifying their strength to rival true energy. Countless strands of starlight coalesced into a massive celestial sword that radiated terrifying power. "Kill!" With a unified roar, they unleashed the celestial sword. Though it strained them greatly, their eyes burned with determination. Boom, the celestial sword clashed with the white gold Buddha in a deafening explosion. Half of Emperor Treading Peak crumbled under the impact as dust and debris filled the air. When the dust settled, the Buddha's 3 heads and 6 arms had been cleanly severed, leaving behind a headless figure. With a piercing cry, the condor, its body glowing with azure light, swooped down like a bolt of lightning. Its razor-sharp claws tore through what remained of the Buddha. Crash! The white gold Buddha shattered completely. The heavenly monk spat blood once more. His body was riddled with cracks as he suffered another devastating blow, this time to his very essence. The injuries rivaled those he sustained when his martial will was obliterated at Tianju Peak. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Meanwhile, on another part of the battlefield, the earthly nun, though stronger than the heavenly monk, faced even greater pressure from her opponents, Sword Emperor Jiu and the Spirit Monkey. Her vaunted sword domain and clear sword heart were rendered ineffective against Sword Emperor Jiu's enigmatic life-and-death sword intent. His seemingly ordinary strikes carried devastating power that forced her to divert much of her focus just to defend herself. But Sword Emperor Jiu wasn't her biggest problem. The Spirit Monkey was a force of nature. Towering like a mountain in its golden-armored form, every punch it threw carried overwhelming force. Its silver eyes occasionally emitted beams of destructive light that left her scrambling for safety. No matter what techniques she used, they were anticipated and countered by the Spirit Monkey's piercing gaze. Her frustration grew as she realized she couldn't even muster a proper counterattack. 6,000 Li, Sword Emperor Jiu unleashed his ultimate technique, a strike honed through years of mastery and now infused with his understanding of life and death. The attack tore through her defenses like paper. Desperate, she condensed her sword domain into a single point and launched it at him in retaliation. The resulting clash sent shockwaves across Emperor Treading Peak, forcing many onlookers to retreat further in fear for their lives. But even as her attack bore down on Sword Emperor Jiu, he remained calm. His task was complete. Looking up, she saw a massive golden figure descending upon her, the Spirit Monkey. With an earth-shaking stomp, it shattered her sword domain completely. A beam of silver light pierced through her body before she could react fully. Blood poured from her wounds as she collapsed in defeat, her injuries far worse than those of the heavenly monk. As Wudang's combatants descended gracefully back to the ground, they gazed coldly at Xianxia Cultivation's disciples. Fear filled their eyes as they realized their 2 greatest defenders had been utterly defeated. The surrounding martial artists were equally stunned. Many had assumed Ning Changge's absence meant Wudang would tread lightly, but it was clear now that they had no intention of holding back. And most shocking of all was Wudang's sheer strength, especially that of the Spirit Monkey. Its 12-Zhang form and earth-shattering power left an indelible impression on everyone present. Even Nai Feng and Bu Jingyun were shaken. That Spirit Monkey, it might be as strong as the legendary fire Qilin from Lingyun Grotto. Their respect for Ning Changge deepened further. If even his disciples possessed such power, how terrifying must he be? As tension filled the air once more, all eyes turned to Song Yuanqiao for his next move. Surveying the devastated battlefield, Song Yuanqiao spoke coldly. From this day forward, Sihang Jingzhai and Jingnian Zen sect will seal their gates for 100 years. All martial arts texts must be copied and sent to Wudang. The heavenly monk and earthly nun turned pale with rage. "You go too far," they cried in unison. But before they could act further, waves of Buddhist light emanated from within Sihang Jingzhai as dozens of Buddhist powerhouses emerged, each radiating an aura as strong as a land immortal. "Does Wudang think we Buddhists have no one?" One monk roared angrily as he attacked Song Yuanqiao with a golden fist technique. Before Song Yuanqiao could respond, a golden palm descended from above, shattering the attack effortlessly. A calm voice followed. "And do you think my Taoist sect has no one?" From above descended Zhang Sanfeng, Old Celestial Master Zioa Yazi, Li Changsheng, Dragon Island Master, and more Taoist powerhouses, all radiating immense power. Heaven and earth seemed to tremble as Taoist realms clashed with Buddhist auras. Today's Tao-Buddhist rivalry would not end peacefully. As the crowd's hearts pounded in their chests, the tension on Emperor Treading Peak reached its peak. The golden palm conjured by the Vajra sect Buddha collided with the radiant golden light palm unleashed by the old celestial master. Boom! The forces of heaven and earth recoiled as waves of energy rippled outward, forcing the gathered martial artists to retreat in shock. Their faces were pale with fear. The Vajra sect Buddha's expression changed as his golden palm was shattered by the old celestial master's strike. The golden light palm, though diminished, continued forward with oppressive force. A white-browed monk stepped forward, chanting a Buddhist mantra as he struck out with his own palm, finally dispersing the lingering golden light. The old celestial master's strength was immediately evident. Though not on the level of Dugu Kyubai, he was among the strongest land immortals. Even those who had lived for 5 centuries might not rival his power. Among Taoists, he was undoubtedly the strongest. Seeing the arrival of so many Taoist realms, Song Yuanqia was initially startled but quickly bowed respectfully. "Greetings to Master and all esteemed seniors." Zhang Sanfeng waved his hand with a smile, clearly in high spirits. Today, Wudang had truly made a name for itself. The earlier battle had been witnessed by numerous Taoist realms who were all astonished and impressed. The performance of Wudang's 7 heroes, who could challenge a land immortal with their sword formation, had left many envious. Ning Changge's monstrous talent was well known, but even Wudang's 7 heroes were extraordinary. Zhang Sanfeng couldn't help but feel proud as his peers looked on with envy. Nearly 10 Taoist land immortals had gathered. Their powerful auras filled the air, suffocating the surrounding martial artists. With both Taoist and Buddhist land immortals present, their combined number approached 30. This was an unprecedented gathering. Ordinarily, even seeing one land immortal was rare. But now, they seemed to be everywhere, giving the illusion that land immortals were as common as leaves on a tree. In truth, land immortals were incredibly rare. With lifespans of 500 years, they were the pinnacle of martial arts. Even in the vast 9 provinces, with its countless population, only a few could ascend to this realm. A single dynasty might have anywhere from a dozen to several dozen land immortals. Some scholars had estimated that there were at least 300 to 500 land immortals across the 9 provinces. Even so, achieving this level required unparalleled talent and effort. Zhang Sanfeng and the old celestial master turned their gazes toward the Buddhist powerhouses. The tension between the two sides was palpable, and even those watching from the shadows felt the pressure. The gathered martial artists retreated further, their breaths shallow and their faces pale. In the presence of such overwhelming power, even Heavenman experts seemed insignificant. "It seems the Taoists came prepared for a fight," sneered the Vajra sect Buddha. "Hiding in the shadows like cowards, typical of your kind." Xiaoyazi laughed heartily. "Ridiculous! Is there anyone more hypocritical than your Buddhist sect? You preach compassion while exploiting the people. Your words are nauseating." The Taoists erupted in laughter. Xiaoyazi was known for his sharp tongue. The old celestial master remained calm. "You accuse us of hiding in the shadows, yet you do the same. Today's matter concerned only Wudang and Siheng Jingjai. We had no intention of interfering. But you chose to step in and now have the audacity to complain." The Buddhist powerhouses frowned deeply. A white-browed monk stepped forward. He was a senior figure from Tianzhu Buddhism, one of the most respected among the gathered Buddhists. Chanting a mantra, he spoke gently. "Esteemed Taoists, why resort to such harsh words? If we hadn't intervened earlier, countless lives might have been lost. Surely that would have been regrettable." Zhang Sanfeng replied coldly, "Wudang disciples are not to be bullied." A plump Buddha joined in, hands clasped in prayer. "Zhang Zhenren, your words are harsh. Your disciples have suffered no harm today, while the heavenly monk and earthly nun have been gravely injured. If this is about your centenary celebration, surely your anger has been vented by now. Must you escalate this into a Tao Buddhist war, bringing suffering to countless innocents?" The Dragon Island masters shouted in unison. "What a convenient excuse. We've long heard of your hypocrisy, but seeing it firsthand is truly enlightening. You caused this mess and now blame Zhang Zhenren. By your logic, should we destroy your temples and apologize afterward?" The crowd murmured in agreement. Buddhism had long been dominant in this era, with its powerhouses acting arrogantly. They dictated who was right or wrong and demanded others submit to their will. But Ning Changge's rise had shaken their dominance. Many in the martial world were secretly rooting for the Taoists. Lu Suzhen, head of Qingcheng Mountain, added coldly, "Exactly. If you don't want to fight today, then follow Song Yuanqiao's terms. Siheng Jingjai and Jingnian Zen sect will seal their gates for 100 years. The Taoists stood united, their momentum overwhelming. The Wudang disciples were filled with pride and excitement. The Buddhists, however, were left speechless. Finally, the white-browed monk sighed. "Must it come to this, such unnecessary conflict?" The Vajra sect Buddha could no longer contain his anger. Enough talk. Without that little immortal here, we'll crush you all and show that Buddhism cannot be challenged. In an instant, the tension between the two sides reached its breaking point. High above, dark clouds gathered as nearly 30 land immortals prepared for battle. Their combined aura alone was enough to alter the weather. If they truly fought, it would be nothing short of apocalyptic. The crowd held their breath. As the Vajra sect Buddha had said, without Ning Changge present, Buddhism held a numerical advantage. Even with Wudang's 4 land immortal evil combatants and their allies, they were outnumbered by 5 or 6. Some began scanning the area anxiously, hoping to spot Ning Changge. They couldn't believe he wouldn't show up for such an important event. The Taoists remained unshaken. "Come if you dare," Zhang Sanfeng roared. "Let's settle this once and for all." The Taoists' auras surged as they prepared for battle. At this point, retreating was not an option. With so many witnesses present, backing down would destroy their reputation and influence for generations. The rivalry between Taoism and Buddhism was ancient. Neither side would yield unless faced with an overwhelming force. As their combined energies clashed, Emperor Treading Peak trembled violently. Stones shattered and buildings collapsed as the mountain itself began to crumble under the pressure. Finally, with radiant lights bursting forth from both sides, the land immortals clashed. Boom! The first exchange shook heaven and earth. Emperor Treading Peak split down the middle as if unable to withstand the sheer force of their battle. Dozens of land immortals fought fiercely, unleashing their full power without restraint. The resulting chaos was impossible to control. The earthly nun watched helplessly as her disciples were caught in the crossfire. Many were reduced to blood mist by stray attacks, while others fled in terror. Even the Buddhists struggled to contain the destruction. The overwhelming energies summoned by so many combatants created an uncontrollable storm of chaos. From afar, spectators watched in awe and terror as Emperor Treading Peak continued to collapse. The scale of destruction was beyond anything they had imagined. In the sky above, Zhang Sanfeng wielded his Taiji sword, its black light cutting through his opponent's defenses. The old celestial master fought 2 Buddhas simultaneously with his golden light curse, lightning crackling from his fingertips. Other Taoist powerhouses like Lu Suzhen, Li Changsheng, and Xiao Yazi displayed incredible techniques as they battled fiercely against their Buddhist counterparts. Even Wudang's spirit monkey, Condor, and sword Emperor Jiu joined the fray, their divine abilities shining brightly amidst the chaos. Despite their individual strength, it was clear that Taoism was at a disadvantage due to sheer numbers. Several Taoist realms were forced to fight 2 opponents at once, straining their limits. Among those watching from afar were Zhu Yuyan and Wanwen, both deeply worried for the Taoists' chances. "Can't we help them?" Wanwen asked hesitantly. Zhu Yuyan shook her head grimly. "This battle is beyond us. Will Ning Changge really not come?" Wanwen wondered aloud. Zhu Yuyan replied thoughtfully, "He must have a plan." Back on the battlefield, Song Yuanqiao and Wudang's 7 heroes continued to press their advantage against the heavenly monk and earthly nun. Though weakened from their earlier injuries, the 2 Buddhists struggled valiantly but were clearly outmatched by Wudang's sword formation. "You're too arrogant," the heavenly monk spat bitterly. "Your little immortal isn't here. How can you hope to win?" But Song Yuanqiao only smiled calmly. "Who said my junior brother isn't here?" His words sent shockwaves through everyone present. Eyes widened as people searched frantically for any sign of Ning Changge. Even the Buddhists faltered momentarily at his name. But when no one appeared after a few moments, skepticism returned. The earthly nun sneered. "Bluffing won't save you." Unperturbed, Song Yuanqiao reached into his robes and pulled out a small pouch, a seemingly ordinary object that radiated an inexplicable sense of mystery. Opening it calmly under everyone's watchful eyes. Whoosh! 5 beams of radiant light shot into the sky. Swords hummed as countless blades resonated in unison. A towering sword intent pierced through the clouds above, creating a vacuum in its wake. Amidst gasps of awe, 5 divine swords materialized, each radiating unparalleled sharpness and brilliance. The first pouch contained none other than Ning Changge's 5-element spirit swords. Having been nourished by Ning Changge's mid-foundation establishment mana, the 5-element spirit swords had grown even more powerful. Even without Ning Changge present, their strength was overwhelming. The crowd stared in shock at the 5 radiant swords hovering in the sky. For many, this was their first time witnessing the 5-element spirit swords. Their expressions grew heavy as they sensed the terrifying power emanating from the blades. The 9 provinces were no strangers to legendary swords and treasures, but compared to these swords, everything else seemed like mere toys. 5-colored light shot into the heavens. Sword intent surged, shaking the void. The gathered swordsmen couldn't help but look on with reverence, as if these weren't swords but 5 peerless sword immortals. Wanwen's eyes sparkled with delight. I knew it, the little immortal must have made arrangements. He entrusted the spirit swords to Song Daxia. Back at Mount Amei, just 3 of these swords were enough to suppress Xiang Yushin. Now that all 5 are here, they're practically equivalent to several land immortals. Zhu Yuyan nodded slowly in agreement. Wu Zun Bai Xuan, however, felt a deep sense of defeat. After years of cultivation, he realized he couldn't even compare to a single sword. Swordsmen like Ximen Chuixu and Yi Gacheng stared intently at the spirit swords, hoping to glean some profound insights into swordsmanship. They had witnessed Ning Changge wield these swords during Zhang Sanfeng's centenary celebration, and seeing them again left them equally awestruck. All eyes were on the spirit swords. Even the Taoist realms and Buddhist Buddhas paused their battle to take notice. For the Taoists, the sight brought joy and relief. For the Buddhists, it brought unease and dread. Zhang Sanfeng chuckled. Changge said he had everything under control. All we need to do is fight without holding back. Though Ning Changge wasn't present, Zhang Sanfeng and the old celestial master understood the need for someone to remain behind at Wudang. Leaving it unguarded would invite opportunists. No need to guess who might take advantage. The Taoist realm's morale soared. Their true energy surged, and the collapsing Emperor Treading Peak continued to crumble further. By the end of this battle, Emperor Treading Peak would be reduced to flat ground. Seeing the spirit swords emerge from the first pouch, Song Yuanqiao felt a surge of confidence. Patting the remaining 2 pouches in his robes, he smiled brightly at the grim-faced heavenly monk and earthly nun. What do you think? With these spirit swords here, it's as if my junior brother is standing among us. The heavenly monk and earthly nun were so frustrated they nearly spat blood. Their faces burned with humiliation. Ever since they had gone to Wudang, nothing had gone their way. Their pride and dignity had been utterly shattered. 4 centuries of cultivation had done nothing to prepare them for this level of disgrace. Spirit swords or not, it only proves that Ning Changge isn't here, they roared defiantly, charging once more at Wudang's 7 heroes. Song Yuanqiao laughed heartily, unfazed by their bravado. My junior brother's methods are unparalleled. Whether he's here or not makes no difference. With a wave of his hand, he shouted, Spirit swords, aid us in slaying our enemies. Buzz. The 5 element spirit swords began to tremble violently. To everyone's astonishment, the swords seemed to respond to Song Yuanqiao's command. In an instant, they transformed into beams of light and shot toward the Buddhist Buddhas. Roar, howl, cry, shriek. Thunderous roars echoed across the heavens as the spirit swords transformed into 5 divine beasts. The gold edge sword became a white tiger, its mouth spewing golden light as it charged a Buddha. The azure origin sword turned into a green dragon, its vitality laced with deathly intent that surpassed even Sword Emperor Jiu's life and death sword Qi. The thick earth sword transformed into a yellow Qilin, its hooves surrounded by radiant yellow sword Qi. The vermilion flame sword became a vermilion bird, blazing with fiery sword energy. The blue water sword turned into a black tortoise, exuding an endless flow of water-like sword Qi. The divine beasts roared as they wielded their respective elements, each targeting a different Buddha. Their attacks were imbued with an aura of supreme dominance and carried traces of divine mysteries. The crowd was dumbfounded. This wasn't just swordsmanship. It was as if 5 peerless sword immortals had descended upon the battlefield. The sheer brilliance of this technique left everyone in awe of Ning Changge's methods. His absence only added to his mystique, as his creations alone could dominate such a battle. The heavens were illuminated by 5-colored light as the divine beasts unleashed their power. A Buddha from Lulen Buddhism manifested an 8-armed Arhat form to confront the white tiger. Though his Buddha light surged mightily, it was no match for the tiger's golden sword Qi, which severed 4 of his arms in an instant. The white tiger roared triumphantly and continued its assault, leaving deep gashes in the mountain below as its sword Qi carved through stone like butter. The Lulen Buddha paled as he struggled to evade the relentless attacks. He realized that while the spirit swords were powerful, they lacked flexibility without a wielder. Even so, he could barely hold his ground. If someone were controlling these swords, he thought with dread, I'd already be dead. The same scenario played out across the battlefield. Another Buddha from Great Wheel Temple, who had underestimated the black tortoise's watery sword Qi, lost 5 fingers in an instant. Though he survived, his arrogance was replaced with fear and caution. None of the Buddhas dared underestimate the spirit swords any longer. Their hearts grew heavy as they realized how close they were to being overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the Taoist realms were elated. The old celestial master and Zhang Sanfeng had seen the spirit swords in action before and were unsurprised by their power. But for others, like Lu Suzhen of Qingcheng Mountain and various land immortals from Lingbao Taoist Temple and Xuanzhen Temple, this was their first time witnessing such might. Immortal Dao, truly unfathomable, they murmured in awe. The battlefield was now divided into 2 fronts, the ongoing clash between Taoist realms and Buddhist Buddhas. The spirit sword's relentless assault on 5 Buddhas. Thanks to the spirit sword's intervention, Taoist realms who had been fighting 2 opponents now faced only 1. This shift allowed them to gain the upper hand and push back their adversaries. On the other front, the spirit swords dominated their respective battles, leaving their opponents battered and bloodied. The tide had turned decisively in favor of Taoism. For many spectators, this was a revelation. They had never imagined that mere swords could tip the scales so dramatically. "How strong must Ning Changge be?" someone whispered. "If his swords alone can suppress Buddhas. This is terrifying. Immortal Dao. If I could glimpse its secrets just once in my life, I'd die happy." But not everyone believed Buddhism would fall so easily. "They must have prepared for this," said a middle-aged swordsman with a solemn expression. "If they accounted for Ning Changge himself, they wouldn't be caught off guard by his swords." His words proved prophetic. In one corner of the battlefield, a Buddha from Great Wheel Temple had been holding his own against the black tortoise. But suddenly, the sword transformed, splitting into 5 projections that formed a miniature 5-element sword formation. Boom! A radiant burst of 5-colored light obliterated his defenses. His head was severed cleanly, and even his relic was consumed by the black tortoise sword. Moments later, another Buddha from Lulan Buddhism fell victim to a similar fate as the white tiger unleashed its own 5-element sword formation. 2 Buddhas had fallen in quick succession. The heavens wept as dark clouds gathered and rain poured down, a mournful tribute to their passing. The remaining 3 Buddhas fighting the spirit swords were horrified. Though they managed to survive by retreating and receiving aid from their allies, they were gravely injured. One lost an arm, another a leg, and the third nearly half his body. The battlefield fell silent as both sides regrouped. The Buddhist Buddhas stared at their Taoist counterparts with a mix of fear and fury. Never before had they suffered such humiliation, 2 Buddhas slain and 3 others maimed. "You'll pay for this," one roared angrily. "Such cruelty will not go unpunished." Zhang Sanfeng remained unfazed. "Spare me your empty words," he retorted coldly. "Today will end with one side standing victorious." A white-browed Buddha stepped forward solemnly. "If that's how it must be, then witness our ultimate formation." The Buddhas began chanting in unison. Their voices filled the air with solemnity as golden light surged around them. Countless arhats, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas appeared in an endless procession, a manifestation of their combined will and power. "The myriad Buddha formation," whispered Dugu Jian, who had been watching silently until now. "So they've finally revealed it." The rolling Buddhist chants echoed through the heavens, shaking the earth. Countless gazes turned toward the scene, their expressions filled with awe at the sheer might of Buddhism. With the myriad Buddha formation complete, the combined power of nearly 20 Buddhas was gathered into one force. Though there was some loss in efficiency, the result was still far beyond what any single Buddha could achieve. The skies filled with radiant Buddha light, dispelling the ominous clouds that had gathered from the earlier deaths of Buddhas. The heavens were now adorned with countless visions of bodhisattvas and arhats. From all directions, Buddhist mantras filled the air. "Life is full of suffering. Turn back and you shall find salvation. Lay down your blade and you shall become a Buddha. Formless and selfless, free of anger and arrogance. If I do not enter hell, who will?" These solemn words struck directly at the souls of those present. Many martial artists froze in place, their minds flooded with memories of their past sins. Some began to weep uncontrollably, overwhelmed by guilt and regret. Others were driven to the brink of despair, gripped by the urge to end their own lives. It was as if they had become the most vile sinners in existence, unworthy of continuing to live. Buddhist true energy had always been adept at influencing minds. Stories of Buddhas delivering life-changing sermons with a single word were not uncommon, but experiencing it firsthand was a harrowing ordeal. In the Jianghu, who among them hadn't taken lives? For demonic sect members like Zhu Yuyan and Wanwen, the effects were even more pronounced. Activating their heavenly demon true energy, they shielded themselves from the Buddhist chants and retreated with expressions of disgust. Dugu Jian also frowned in disdain. "Such hypocrisy," he muttered. "When they kill, it's to protect life. When others kill, it's a sin worthy of hell." Many shared his sentiment. Double-standard baldies? Yet the overwhelming power of the myriad Buddha formation left them too fearful to voice their thoughts aloud. All eyes were fixed on the massive formation in the sky, waiting to see how the Taoist realms would respond. Number, the Taoist response. The Taoist realms wore grave expressions. The differences between Taoism and Buddhism were clear. One emphasized quality while the other relied on quantity. But there was another key distinction. Buddhism traced its roots back to a single source, Shakyamuni Buddha. Despite their various sects and teachings, all Buddhist practices shared a common foundation. This allowed Buddhas from different traditions to seamlessly combine their powers into formations like the myriad Buddha formation. Taoism, on the other hand, was far more diverse. Each Taoist realm cultivated unique techniques and philosophies. While individual Taoists were often stronger than their Buddhist counterparts, their disparate methods made it difficult to form unified formations. "These baldies only know one trick," Xiaoyazi scoffed. The myriad Buddha formation was not a new concept. It had appeared multiple times throughout history during clashes between Taoism and Buddhism. Sometimes, Buddhism used it to secure victories and bolster its reputation. Other times, Taoism managed to shatter the formation with the help of a peerless genius. "Let's test its strength first," suggested the old celestial master, his tone cautious yet resolute. "Agreed," said Sword Emperor Jiu, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Having recently ascended to the land immortal realm, he relished the opportunity to participate in such a monumental battle. The experience was invaluable for honing his skills. The Taoist realms exchanged glances before nodding in unison. Their gazes briefly lingered on the five elements spirit swords, which hovered in the air, radiating an aura of invincibility. With these swords as allies, they believed they had a chance to break through the formation. "Fools!" thundered the Buddhist Buddhas, their voices layered with divine authority. The myriad Buddha formation erupted with blinding light, illuminating the collapsed remains of Emperor Treading Peak like a sacred relic. The formation's power coalesced into a massive golden palm that seemed to stretch across the heavens. Within the palm's surface, visions of arhats and bodhisattvas appeared, their serene expressions contrasting sharply with the palm's oppressive aura. It was as if an entire Buddhist kingdom resided within its grasp. Even Dugu Jian couldn't hide his astonishment. "What terrifying power!" he muttered, gripping his sword tightly as it trembled in its sheath. He could feel an overwhelming sense of danger emanating from the formation. He knew that if he faced this alone, survival would be nearly impossible. The crowd held their breath as they watched the Taoist realms prepare their counterattack. "Attack!" came Zhang Sanfeng's command. A surge of energy erupted from the Taoist side as each realm unleashed their most powerful techniques. Zhang Sanfeng's Teiji diagram materialized behind him, its black and white energy spiraling upward. The old celestial master summoned a fusion of his golden light curse and palm thunder, creating a radiant bolt of golden lightning. The Dragon Island masters unleashed their respective techniques, one wielding sword intent imbued with slaughter, the other manipulating weight-altering punches. Sword Emperor Jiu's life and death sword Qi danced in arcs of black and white light. And then there were the five elements spirit swords, which combined into a massive five-element sword formation, radiating unparalleled power. The five-element sword formation alone seemed capable of rivaling the Buddhist kingdom within the Golden Palm. Even Dugu Jian felt his confidence waver as he watched from afar. For a swordsman like Dugu Jian, doubt was a dangerous thing. Yet he couldn't help but wonder if his ultimate technique could ever match such overwhelming strength. The combined might of Taoism surged forward like a tidal wave. The Teiji diagram spun relentlessly. Golden lightning crackled through the air. Sword Qi and elemental energies intertwined in a dazzling display of destruction. Boom! The collision shook heaven and earth. The deafening explosion left everyone momentarily deafened and blinded as waves of chaotic energy rippled outward. Even Heavenman experts struggled to maintain their footing as weaker martial artists were reduced to blood mist by the sheer force of the clash. When the dust settled, the golden palm had been severed by the 5 elements spirit swords and shattered by the combined attacks of the Taoist realms. But victory came at a cost. The 5 elements sword formation dissipated, its energy spent. Many Taoist realms staggered backward, visibly drained from the effort required to counter such an overwhelming attack. Though neither side had gained a decisive advantage, it was clear that prolonged combat would favor Buddhism. The myriad Buddha formation's efficiency far surpassed that of Taoism's combined efforts. The Buddhists smirked triumphantly as they prepared for another round, but before they could act, Song Yuanqiao stepped forward with a confident smile. "Master," he said, addressing Zhang Sanfeng, "there's no need for concern. Before I left for Emperor Treading Peak, my junior brother gave me another pouch." The Buddhists froze at his words, their expressions darkening with unease. The Taoist realms exchanged hopeful glances as Zhang Sanfeng chuckled. "You rascal, if your junior brother gave you something, why didn't you use it earlier?" "Forgive me," Song Yuanqiao replied sheepishly before pulling out a second pouch from his robes. As he opened it, a beam of black light shot into the sky. Hovering above them appeared a massive black cauldron, the mountain and river spirit-gathering furnace, its surface etched with intricate carvings of celestial bodies and natural landscapes. The crowd stared in confusion. "A cauldron? What use is that here?" someone muttered skeptically. Even Song Yuanqiao hesitated for a moment before remembering Ning Changge's unwavering confidence in his arrangements. Far away on Tianzhu Peak, Ning Changge sat calmly in Wudeng's scripture pavilion, engrossed in his studies. The ever-growing collection of Taoist scriptures enriched his understanding with each passing day. Nearby, Huang Rong approached hesitantly. "Brother Ning," she began softly, "I've been reading through some scriptures recently and feel stuck." "What troubles you?" Ning Changge asked with a gentle smile. "The scriptures speak of pursuing the Tao. But what is the Tao? Is it merely understanding heaven's laws, or is there more?" Ning Changge's eyes gleamed with approval at her question. "The Tao is vast," he explained. "It encompasses both heaven's laws, wind, lightning, yin-yang, and one's personal path. For me, my Tao is immortality." "And mine?" Huang Rong asked timidly. "You must discover it for yourself," Ning Changge replied. "Only by understanding your own heart can you walk further along this path." Back at Emperor Treading Peak, the mountain and river spirit-gathering furnace began to hum ominously as it expanded rapidly, its size growing until it towered over everything like a black mountain looming over the battlefield. From within its depths emerged an endless torrent of black flames, the Samadhi true fire, engulfing everything in its path. Chapter 126, 9 Dragons Refining Buddhas. The reincarnation of Shakyamuni. The scene of the 100-jang spirit furnace unleashing a sea of black flames was nothing short of mythic. It was as if a legend had come to life, unfolding before everyone's eyes. The overwhelming black flames filled the heavens, silencing even the once-dominant Buddhist chants. All that remained was the eerie sound of fire burning in the stillness. Everyone could feel the terrifying aura emanating from the flames, sending chills down their spines. Indeed, the flames pouring from the mountain and river spirit-gathering furnace were none other than Samadhi true fire. The Samadhi true fire was particularly effective against the Buddha bodies cultivated by the Buddhas. This was why Ning Changge had chosen to make the spirit furnace his second pouch for Song Yuanqiao. To ensure its potency, Ning Changge had infused the furnace with a vast reserve of Samadhi true fire before handing it over. The result was now on full display, a sea of fire that seemed to consume the heavens and earth. The Taoist realms react. The Dragon Island masters felt their scalps tingle as their mouths went dry. They were among the few who truly understood the fire's power. Back on Peach Blossom Island, they had personally witnessed Ning Changge's Samadhi true fire. A single flame had effortlessly defeated them both. But now, this wasn't just one flame. It was thousands, tens of thousands, forming an ocean of fire. The two exchanged bitter smiles, realizing that what they had faced back then was merely a casual display of Ning Changge's power. The other Taoist realms were equally stunned. Legends of divine flames and celestial fires had long been part of Taoist lore, but seeing such a fire in person was an entirely different experience. Even though the Samadhi true fire wasn't directed at them, they could still feel its oppressive heat and destructive potential. Many couldn't help but wonder if they could withstand such flames themselves. and concluded that they likely couldn't. Their gazes turned toward Zhang Sanfeng, filled with envy and admiration. How did this old man get so lucky to have such a disciple? They thought. Zhang Sanfeng, stroking his beard, couldn't help but feel a little smug. Though he maintained a calm demeanor, inwardly he was bursting with pride. For the onlookers, the sight was nothing short of divine. They stared at the black flames dominating half the sky as if witnessing a miracle. Such methods, truly otherworldly? Even a single spark of that fire could burn me to ashes 100 times over. The little immortal's abilities are truly godlike. It seems he anticipated everything. Sitting atop Tianzhu Peak, he manipulates the 9 provinces with ease. Such vision and foresight are awe-inspiring. And look at those baldies, they don't look too happy about this. Meanwhile, the land immortals watching from afar were deeply shaken. Unlike the ordinary spectators, they could sense the true danger of the Samadhi true fire. The moment it spread across the sky, their bodies, true energy, and even martial wills felt a sharp sting, as if warning them of imminent destruction. It was as if this fire could incinerate everything it touched. Dugu Jian, who had come to observe, found himself growing increasingly wary of Ning Changge. Though he had never met the little immortal, his respect for him continued to rise. Just how many tricks does this little immortal have up his sleeve? He wondered, his gaze fixed on the black flames. But those most affected were the Buddhas within the myriad Buddha formation. The moment the Samadhi true fire poured from the furnace, they felt an overwhelming sense of dread and danger. Their Buddha bodies trembled uncontrollably. Even the usually composed elder monks couldn't hide their alarm. The black flames seemed to be their natural nemesis. Before the fire even reached them, it began melting away the golden Buddhist visions surrounding them. Realizing the threat, the Buddhas immediately channeled their full power into reinforcing the myriad Buddha formation. Golden light surged from their bodies, rising to meet the black flames. But as soon as it made contact, it was instantly consumed and extinguished. Horrified, they quickly withdrew their light and focused on defense. In the sky above, even without any action from the Taoist realms, the Samadhi true fire alone had forced Buddhism's strongest formation into a defensive position. Song Yuan laughed heartily. This is my junior brother's divine technique, the Samadhi true fire. Today you baldies will experience its wrath firsthand. Though he didn't fully understand the spirit furnace, he knew enough about the Samadhi true fire to speak with confidence. Ning Changge had mentioned it before, and Song Yuan trusted his junior brother completely. Hearing its name only deepened everyone's reverence for the fire. Even the Buddhas couldn't refute its power. Its oppressive presence left them no room for argument. As Song Yuan finished speaking, the spirit furnace began to move. It trembled slightly, and then, roar. A deafening roar echoed across the battlefield as a massive dragon made entirely of black flames emerged from the fire. Then came a second dragon, and a third, until 9 flame dragons spiraled into existence. Each dragon was unique in appearance but equally majestic and terrifying. Their combined presence exuded an aura of absolute dominance. Without hesitation, the 9 dragons charged toward the myriad Buddha formation. Their passage left faint scorch marks in the air as if even space itself was being burned away. The dragons roared as they tore through Buddhist visions of arhats and bodhisattvas, reducing them to ash. The Ansa-dominant Buddhist chants fell silent as true energy dissipated into nothingness. The Buddhas finally understood just how fearsome this fire was. Gritting their teeth, they poured all their strength into maintaining the formation. "Hold steady," they shouted in unison. A massive golden palm reappeared within the formation, holding up a miniature Buddhist kingdom. But unlike before, there was no radiant light. Everything was concentrated into defense against the 9 dragons. Even so, cracks began to appear in their defenses. With each passing moment, more visions within the Buddhist kingdom crumbled into ash. Crack! The sound of something breaking echoed through the air as pieces of the Buddhist kingdom began to collapse. Several Buddhas coughed up blood as their connection to the formation faltered. Boom! Finally, with a resounding explosion, the Buddhist kingdom shattered completely. The Ansa-mighty visions of arhats and bodhisattvas vanished into nothingness. The Buddhas staggered back, blood dripping from their mouths. Though none had suffered fatal injuries yet, their pale faces showed just how much damage they had taken. The crowd watched in stunned silence. "Is this really happening?" someone whispered. "Has Buddhism reached its breaking point?" Even Dugu Jian felt his hand tremble slightly as he gripped his sword. If 20 Buddhas were to fall in a single day, it would be an event that shook history itself, a calamity unlike any other. The 9 flame dragons roared once more as they prepared for another assault. The Buddhas hastily erected golden barriers to hold them back while crying out in desperation. "World-honored one, will you truly do nothing? Will you stand by and watch as Buddhism falls into ruin?" Their cries were filled with sorrow and anger, a plea for salvation from their most revered figure, Shakyamuni Buddha. Hearing this name sent shockwaves through everyone present. Shakyamuni? The Taoist realms exchanged uneasy glances. Even Zhang Sanfeng's expression darkened as he realized what this might mean. Shakyamuni Buddha was said to have founded Buddhism thousands, if not tens of thousands of years ago. How could such a figure still exist? Impossible, someone muttered. No one can live that long, not even with life-extending techniques. But before anyone could process this further, a soft sigh echoed across the battlefield. It was faint yet unmistakable, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Amitabha, why must it come to this? Everyone turned toward the source of the voice and saw an elderly monk walking slowly toward them. His appearance was unremarkable, barefoot and clad in gray robes, but his eyes held an indescribable depth, as if they had witnessed countless lifetimes. With each step he took, he seemed to traverse impossible distances until he stood before them all. Raising his hand gently, he touched the myriad Buddha formation with a faint golden light. Instantly, its defenses were restored, halting even the Samadhi true fire in its tracks. "Perhaps we should stop here," he said softly to the spirit furnace and spirit swords. The spirit furnace trembled slightly before withdrawing its flames. The 5 spirit swords hovered protectively around it, their light dimming as if in contemplation. Behind him, cries of joy erupted from the Buddhas. "World-honored one, you finally intervened." The crowd stood frozen in disbelief as they watched this scene unfold. Could this monk truly be Shakyamuni? The monk shook his head gently. "I am not Shakyamuni," he said calmly. "My name is Bodhidharma." His words sent another wave of shock through everyone present. Bodhidharma was none other than the founder of Shaolin. For centuries, he had been thought dead, another legend lost to time. Yet here he stood, alive and well, and seemingly tied to Shakyamuni Buddha himself. As understanding dawned on them all, Zhang Sanfeng's mind raced. "So that's why Shaolin has been so aggressive lately," he thought grimly. "Bodhidharma isn't just Shaolin's founder, he's Shakyamuni's reincarnation." Reincarnation. I had only heard of ancient geniuses in the 9 provinces attempting such a feat to break through their limits. It was said to be merely a legend, yet today I witness it firsthand, exclaimed the old celestial master, his eyes filled with awe. Among the land immortals present, he was one of the most experienced and knowledgeable. He knew of past attempts, like those of the founder of Dragon Tiger Mountain, who had tried reincarnation but failed. The martial spirit had dispersed, lost to the world. Reincarnation was not immediate. The true spirit drifted through the world, enduring endless solitude until a chance allowed it to be reborn. Otherwise, it would eventually fade away. Only those with immense willpower and determination should attempt it, as the consequences could be dire. The gathered martial artists finally pieced together the story, their expressions stunned. For many, this was their first time hearing of reincarnation, a concept so fantastical it seemed like myth. Dugu Jian stared intently at Bodhidharma, this legendary figure before him. He understood why Bodhidharma had remained hidden for so long. Firstly, he likely wished to focus solely on cultivation, hoping to break through martial limits without distraction. After all, someone with the willpower to attempt reincarnation would have few desires left. Secondly, revealing himself as the reincarnation of Shakyamuni Buddha would bring endless trouble and danger. Thus, even when Shaolin faced destruction, Bodhidharma remained in seclusion. But now, with Buddhism on the brink of collapse, he could no longer stand by and watch its extinction. "World-honored one, please save us," cried the Buddhas, looking at Bodhidharma like children seeking comfort from a parent. Emperor Treading Peak lay in ruins. The blood of fallen Buddhas had yet to dry, and their hearts were heavy with sorrow as they chanted softly. Bodhidharma lowered his gaze, murmuring a Buddhist mantra. Turning to the Taoist realms, his eyes held the weight of countless lifetimes and endless reincarnations. Even the land immortals felt a shiver under his gaze. Addressing the old celestial master, he spoke calmly. "The conflict between Taoism and Buddhism is meaningless. Why persist?" Though his tone was gentle, the pressure was palpable. Faced with such a peerless figure, the Taoist realms showed respect. The old celestial master replied solemnly, "May I ask, if Taoism were in this position today, would you intervene?" Bodhidharma shook his head. "I am a Buddha, not a Taoist." His stance was clear. No matter how powerful he was, he had his loyalties. If Taoism were in peril, he would not risk himself to intervene. The Taoist realms paused but quickly steeled themselves. The old celestial master took a deep breath and declared, "In that case, there is nothing more to say." With Ning Changge's spirit swords and spirit furnace at their side, they were ready to fight to the end if necessary. Battle intent surged among them. Bodhidharma's appearance added uncertainty to the situation, but the Taoists stood unafraid. The Buddhas rose to stand beside Bodhidharma, their eyes filled with anger and determination. Bodhidharma remained silent, his gaze complex. Perhaps he understood that this was no longer about right or wrong, but differing stances. His eyes lingered on the 5 elements, spirit swords, and mountain and river spirit-gathering furnace, filled with complexity and awe. He had heard of the events at Zhang Sanfeng's centenary celebration and felt a deeper connection to the Immortal Dao than most. After all, in his past life as Shakyamuni Buddha, he possessed a spiritual constitution. In this life as Bodhidharma, he was ordinary but carried the legacy of his past life and extended his lifespan through secret techniques. He hadn't expected that upon emerging from seclusion, someone had already embarked on a new path, and that someone was an 11-year-old child. Bodhidharma wondered if this little immortal was also a reincarnation, perhaps an old friend, or even an ancient monster from long ago. In the vast history of the 9 provinces, countless geniuses had existed. Though reincarnation was rare, given enough attempts, some were bound to succeed. "You should leave," Bodhidharma said softly. "I will visit Wudang another day to witness his immortal Tao." His words sent shockwaves through everyone present. Hearts raced at the thought of such a meeting. On one side stood Bodhidharma, reincarnation of Shakyamuni Buddha and founder of Shaolin. On the other was Ning Changge, the little immortal who had recently defeated the sword demon Dugu Kyubai. The clash between these two would surely shake the 9 provinces. Dugu Jian swallowed hard. Though proud, he had to admit that Bodhidharma surpassed him, even more so than Dugu Kyubai had. The legends of Shakyamuni were known to all 9 provinces' powerhouses. Bodhidharma's calm gaze weighed heavily on the Taoist realms like a mountain. At that moment, a trembling voice broke the silence. "If you wish to see my junior brother's immortal Tao, why wait? Witness it today." All eyes turned towards Song Yuanqiao, who shakily pulled out the final pouch from his robes. Despite being only at the Heavenman realm, he stood firm under Bodhidharma's gaze, a testament to his resolve. Taking a deep breath, he continued, "Before I came here, my junior brother told me that if we encountered an unbeatable Buddha, I should open this 3rd pouch. It seems that refers to you." His words sent ripples of shock through everyone present. Bodhidharma's eyes narrowed slightly as he pondered. Did this little immortal know I would come?